4, potentially 5 really change things up. Dragons are going to be the first pick, though. And a lot rides on this. I'm going to mention a couple of the picks from placements just to see what you guys think about it, because I know Camazotz was towards the top. Amuzin Cobb was not only a top pick, he was a top ban, and I think except for like some Valk games and an SCC game, he had a 100% win rate by every other team that was there. So something to be a little worried about, I think, if you are either the Scarabs or the Dragons here. Hazer, what do you think's going to persist from what we last saw to today and this weekend?
I think we're definitely going to continue to see a lot of this Hunter mid, Magical Hunter in the dual lane type style comps. We might even see Double Hunter a fair bit as well. Bans to start with seem to be focused towards the solo lane from the Dragons, though, which that AMC still available, Zeus still available thus far. So the picks that we've mentioned that these teams have done great with are still available for now.
And a lot of things that can be very worrisome for him. I mean, you look at the Hell, that feels very Hurrywind, and honestly, just kind of overall meta-centric. Mercury is straight up Sam for soccer. Literally nobody else has played him this year except for Sam, and he's done a lot of winning. He has like an 88 or higher % win rate on that god, so it makes sense for that to get banned out. Whereas on the other side, you've got a couple of what feel like Solar Troll-specific bans, then of course Stewart, who has been loving this Izanami, routed out with his Ola run. So far, Taco, nothing crazy standing out.
Actually, I think that the Hell and the Ola run definitely stand out a fair bit for me here, because that just screams individual style play that we're trying to eliminate from the team fight, because Sanctify Field, huge ultimate that can really shift just about any sort of team fight potential. But I'm also looking at the Izanami. It just seems as though Jade Dragons are a little bit more prioritized around trying to get rid of those outright clear laning matchups, and seeing that Yemoja lock in instantly, it comes as no real surprise. It's something Broken is bound to get through here, and I think the Jade Dragons couldn't be more satisfied with the Yemoja pick.
Yeah, it feels, I mean, you know, again, when the Scarabs play it, it's not necessarily been the biggest deal. You know, when Mike plays it, that, yeah, you're winning those games most of the time, so it's an easy lock-in for him. Hazer, it's the Amus and Cobb to answer, and we had mentioned Zeus, he's still on the table. It seems like Pandacat doesn't have any qualms about this Amus and Cobb getting locked in, but the Bastet alongside it, another one to mention, because she wasn't available when we watched placements. Now she's out here and available, and Scream loves her.
Scream is a Bastet specialist. He always has been. Season 4, I remember going up against Scream's Bastet on that Obey roster, and he crushed us into the ground. AMC mid for Baronic. But this Bastet, I think it's a great pick. It does really well into the Erlang Shen, which Sam might have looked for here. It has a great matchup into that, so we might not see that come through from Sam, and I think it just is a really strong jungler right now. That ult through the wall, so powerful.
Zhang Kui is another pick that, again, if you haven't, so like, let's throw it out there. For anybody who hasn't either watched Smite this year or realistically in the last like 4 months, this pick should absolutely stand out to you as like a, I'm sorry, what? Why? Yeah, this is Worlds. Hurry has been winning with this. It's also something that they typically can throw to Fine OK and be successful with. It's still an outrageous pick. I'm not gonna gloss over it, but Taco, it's at least a little more common as of late.
Something that I really like about the Jade Dragons comp so far, though, is that you have to anticipate Bastet, especially with their surge of popularity off the most recent rework. She has been a prevalent pick so far in the meta. I guess hasn't really made its way into the competitive scene since the first time we're seeing it in a while, but there's a lot of just outright clear potential from the Solar Scarabs, but I like the restrictive measures that the Jade Dragons have opted for here. Even though Bastet has that ultimate that can pull through that Yemoja ultimate walls, I still think that Zhang Kui, Achilles, they're characters that can stun you right off the bat when you try to initiate. So if that's Bastet or Camazotz looking to get the ball rolling here for the Solar Scarabs, they're going to have to deal with a fair bit of crowd control out of the Jade Dragons first.
And that's the fun thing to think about, is when this Camazotz enters the equation, for 3 months at least, it felt like phase 2 into phase 3, it was top tier jungle. Like Layers probably would still be playing it in the jungle and still look really good with it, and I think most of the junglers are. But after the recent changes in 8.12, he really just cycled straight over into the solo lane again. And Hazer, it was devastating for a lot of people having to deal with that, not just in lane, but then late game. He gets out so easily, he survives so much. I mean, I look at Zhang Kui, I look at Achilles, it's damage, but I feel like this Camazotz might be able to run away at least a little bit for now.
Yeah, I'm surprised to see this Camazotz go so far down the list of picks here. Even 6th pick, you know. Not that far down, but definitely has been a god we've seen really highly prioritized, especially at the play-ins. Final K opting for the Achilles over it, taking that away, I feel a little bit from Solar Troll. Solar Troll had a great performance on that in the event, and I think more than just the matchup being great, he's gone for that to take that away from Solo.
This is going to be a fun one to watch, just because, as you mentioned, not just highly priority, he was the most first pick god throughout all of placements. So a lot of pressure on that. The bans, though, coming through for the second phase. Susano and Erlong Shin banned out by the Scarabs, not wanting Sam to have anything over there. Terra taken away from inbound, and Charybdis taken away. And typically you'd think, well, they've already got Amus and Cop. Nope, that's Baranik's pick through and through. He's been loving that in mid. And so they're trying to cycle and stifle that mid lane a little bit. Taka, what other gods, when you see a Zhang Kui on the other side, what kind of gods start cycling through your mind to deal with that?
Well, one of the problems that I think the Solar Scarabs might have with this Jade Dragons draft so far is it is rather flexible. Achilles and Zhang Kui, they're not necessarily guaranteed to go into that solo mid lane role. There is a chance still, I think, for the Zhang Kui to be played by Fine. Okay, we've seen him take the Zhang Kui into the solo lane before. Achilles does have some flex potential into the jungle as well here for Sam. And again, I think that as far as the Jade Dragons are concerned, they have a slight edge in the sense that they just have that little bit more of crowd control that I think is going to be a bit more influential. But the Solar Scarabs, they seem to really be banking it on just trying to build a lead early on.
And that's something that we've seen them be successful with. That being said, we've also seen the Dragons absolutely run away with games within 5 minutes. So hopefully they're going to be able to find that early pressure. Fenrir, there's 3 assassins on this squad, so one of them has to go to the support. Fenrir feels like it is a little more through and through for inbound. But Hazer, you made a face when you saw it locked in. Are you enjoying it or a little confused?
I'm a little confused. We got 4 Fizz here with an AMC. Is there going to be a Freya for Stuart maybe? Is that going to be enough magical damage in of itself? I'm not sure. But this Awilix comes through for Sam. Wow, what an Awilix pick. Bastet, Camazotz, Fenrir, all pretty easy targets. AMC, no CC immunity to speak of. So if those beads are forced out and he gets knocked up by a Umoja, pulled back in by that Awilix ult, I think this is a really great pick here by Sam.
We've been talking about needing Sam to go big. He set himself up for success. We'll just have to make sure it continues to follow through. It looks like they're cycling through a bunch of hunters now, so looking for a pick to throw over towards Panda Cat specifically. But it is interesting because, Taco, you had mentioned like the Zhang Kui being like essential to pivot. I was on board with that because I was like, yeah, Zeus is still up. Like, Hurry has done nothing but win with Zeus over the last 2 months, and yet they're not going to lock it in. They go for the Heimdall instead. Feels kind of safe in the dual lane.
Too much pick pressure, I feel like, from Bastet, Camazotz, and Fenrir. All of 3 of those characters, I think, are excellent at trying to punish and mobile mages like the Zeus. Heimdall, though, one of the safest hunters that you could honestly look for in that dual lane's really going to negate a little bit of that early to mid-game pressure potential that the Solar Scarabs would have probably been opting for otherwise. But I'm looking primarily towards the fact that there are so many knockups available to the Jade Dragons as well, coming from each of their, or at least from the duo lane heavily. The Umoja and the Heimdall both have strong setup potential there for the Awilish, but it's primarily just the fact that aside from the Awilish semi-countering out some of those jump initiations, I think it's largely just the fact the Solar Scarabs, they are an all-or-nothing comp right now. This is just, you have to wrecking ball style of play, and if you don't find a pick early on in the fight, 4 Fizz could work against you.
Right now, Jade Dragons and Solar Scarabs in quarterfinals #1. Dolson and Aggro on the mic. Doug, of course, working the cameras for this entire weekend. And Aggro, I think you look at Season 8 up to this point, you're looking at Dragons and Scarabs. You're giving Dragons the edge. Scarabs come into this matchup as the wild card team. They can compete with everyone.
Yep.
They've shown us their ability to stay in these sets. Anything, nothing guaranteed here in this first quarterfinal.
Absolutely not. This is a team that you can never overlook. And the Jade Dragons have been such a team that is impossible to nail down. We have no idea what type of performance we're going to see from them this weekend or this game or this minute of every game. That's kind of been their year so far. So I'm incredibly excited. I think this set has a chance to really be exciting.
And isn't it so fitting between these two teams, where jungle is so important on both of these rosters?
Yep.
We get an Awilix for Sam and a Bastet for Scream to start off the SWC.
Hey man, I knew whenever I woke up today and it was a cold day in Georgia, I was thinking,
Doesn't happen often.
Doesn't happen often. It's because Bastet is going to get locked in for Scream. It just gets a little chilly whenever the GOAT starts to lock in his best god. And I thought that he might try and hold it down a little bit. I thought that he might try and play a little coy that, oh, I don't know how good she really is, guys. I don't know. This is what I expected overall, though. I think she's very strong.
Mid lane 2v2 will start early. Scream goes in and out. Hurrywind deals a good bit of chunk damage then on the other end, but Scream did have to use the beads. Might clip those wings a little bit in the first couple minutes.
Yeah, a little surprised. I guess he thought he might get all in committed upon, but had Pounce to get back. I don't know. Definitely a little bit of early game jitters, it looked like to me there. for Scream. But I really like the Bastet pick in general. I think she's very, very strong. And it's interesting the way the Scarabs have decided to utilize it in this game, because her new ultimate is kind of like an on-demand Fenrir ultimate that you can use from a distance. You just hit the projectile, pull them in, and all of a sudden you've got a free kill. And so how do they combine that? Well, let's get the actual Fenrir ultimate. So the Scarabs are really here to try and separate this team fight. They want to start every single fight 5v4, because I think in an outright 5v5, I agree with Hazer and Taco on the desk. The Jade Dragons just have too much good team fight presence. Their AoE is fantastic between the Zhang Kui and the emoji healing. They've got too much in those team fights 5-on-5. But the Scarabs comp is all about creating just misnumbered advantages, trying to separate one person, pull them back, kill them, and then start the fight 5v4. That's what's got to happen.
The question is then, Jade Dragons, Hurricane, PBM, and Panda Cat all start with beads. Sanford Soccer, Blink, Final K has gotten med over there in the solo lane. Is 3 sets of beads enough, aggro, prior to level 12 to limit that Fenrir, limit that Bastet early here in game 1 as PBM drops down the purple buff?
And that was even with a hog use from inbound, so nice win for the Jade Dragons. They don't just get the golden experience from invading the purple, but they just cost inbound 100 gold on the Hand of the Gods that didn't get any value, so that ends up being doubly worth it.
Not only the Jade Dragons, but the Solar Scarabs have had throughout this year the growth that Baronic specifically has shown us throughout all of Season 8, Hurrywind as well. That Giannis meta, Hurrywind was knockdown, drag out every other mid laner here in the league. Purple buff looked at yet again by the Jade Dragons. Is it going to get taken away once more? Looks like it. Sanford Soccer heads left, and purple buff taken away.
And this is exactly what Hazer was just talking about on the desk, that Stewart gets away with this Freya pick against the Warriors because that's an inactive team in the early game. That is not the Jade Dragons. They are not letting you get anything for free.
This year can't be understated. You've just been playing SPL matches. You know, I don't want to discount any of those important games. These are the most important sets that these guys have ever played.
No doubt about it. And you know, I talked to Inbound after his interview earlier, if you missed it during the pregame show, and he was saying on the interview that they really feel like there's no pressure on them, that all the pressure's on the Dragons. Scarabs aren't even supposed to be here with how this year started. And then he doubled down on it whenever I was talking to him. He was like, yeah, man, I'm chilling. I really don't feel like, you know, if we lose, we lose. I feel like we can win, and I feel like we will, but doesn't have to.
First Ragnarok of the set, and it's Panda Cat beneath the Tier 1 tower. Bifrost says bye-bye, and Panda Cat will live. Sanford Soccer's got Gravity Surge on the other end, and that's a great River's Rebuke. Knockups there as well. First blood, hello, Jade Dragon strike first.
Scream goes down on the signature Bastet, and Mike still putting good damage into Stewart and Inbound.
And third purple buff in a row.
Under the tower, and you know Stewart's not getting that one. Greedy usage, or lack thereof, of the beads from Panda Cat. He let himself go all the way under the tower before he decided to use beads to try and get out. But he still lives at the end of the day, and that's what matters. His beads are down, yes, and he doesn't get to participate in any of those kills, sure, but when you look at it from a top-down perspective, it's that simple. He lives, Scarabs don't, and they lose another purple on top of it.
Polar Bear Mike has just controlled the left side of the map so far, hasn't he, with the purple buff invades, the presence of mind to keep the Solar Scarabs dual lane pushed back a bit beneath their Tier 1 tower and all.
Exactly. I mean, when you think of PBM's playstyle, of course, everyone's going to think of Fenrir and Serket and Hercules, you know, these gods that just dominate in the early game. But then also you've got this identity of him having a really, really good... Hold that thought, Sam's in trouble.
Sam gets pulled back in by Scream. Solo kill in the jungle, and the Solar Scarabs, when they need their jungler to step up big, he does so. 8 minutes in, Solar Scarabs answer back.
Perfect rotation in by Scream, and that's what we were talking about earlier. Sam doesn't have beads, and Scream does a good job of putting him in combat, making sure that he's not going to be able to blink away, and then just hits him with the ultimate. Sam never uses the jump and never gets a chance to. That holds you in place for a long time, that Huntress of Bast, so ends up being an easy kill there for Scream, which is exactly what the doctor ordered for the Solar Scarabs. Just in the name of pure confidence there for Scream. I mean, he gets basically 1v1'd in that first blood. Only Mike gets an assist on that first blood kill for Sam. They kind of met in this Harpy pit when the primary fight was happening in the dual lane. Big in order to end up trying to get it there.
All right, so Hog gets used this time by Inbound.
Did he
Looks
get
like
it?
purple buff got secured by the Solar Scarabs this time. So that is the first in like 4 purple buffs that the Scarabs have gotten. But now there's pressure on the red buff as well. Inbound alone with 4 members of the Jade Dragons. This red buff is an afterthought. So where's the numbers advantage? Well, it's nowhere. Half your team is coming out of the base if you're the Solar Scarabs. And so the red buff relatively free. The first Gold Fury of Worlds will be pulled by the Jade Dragons. And Judging by the positioning of the Solar Scarabs, it will be taken by the Jade Dragons. This gold lead about to blow up. It was about 2K. We'll make our way up to 3.
Yeah, that's as easy as it comes for the Jade Dragons, and it's just their game plan is working perfectly so far. We are pressuring the left side of the map. We are not letting Stuart get any farm for free. Panda Cat's got a 2-level lead. Mike's got a 2-level lead. And they're sacrificing some neutral camps for it. I mean, Hurry's a little bit behind Baronic, but overall, a great start for the Scarabs.
Inbound, and Scream and Baronic. They're all here on the red buff. Hurry pops his ultimate, but Ragnarok brings the Jean Kui right back. There is another answer from the Solar Scarabs, but now Sanford Soccer's gone in alone. He's not able to get the kill on a Scream. He will jump out. Gravity Surge delays things just for a moment, but the Scarabs pull back 2 kills.
Sam going in that 1v3. I mean, you see the composition working perfectly for the Scarabs. They want to separate you and then punish you for not having your purification bead. So I don't like that decision to go in at all by Sam.
We feel like that's what the Scarabs have to do at this point, right? It felt like in the first 8-9 minutes of this game, it was just a slow bleed on the left side of the map. All this pressure, it's given Panda Cat a couple levels of lead over Stuart. He's going to 1v3 this purple buff. Panda Cat is going to go in? Are you kidding me? He's got the ultimate off, and it's Scream who'll be crashing back down to earth and down to death. PBM completes the execute. Purple buff, who cares? Jade Dragons grab a kill.
And that's exactly what you want from this lead that you've established. You know, you got to give the ball to someone whenever all this farm is happening. Who are we giving it to? Giving it to Maxim Janovic, it's definitely a good idea by my estimation. This guy has been doing it at the world stage for a long, long time. Very impressive at this time of year, and ends up making a nice play there. Sets up for his team to rotate in. Mike's the one who gets the kill, but we know the one who did the work.
Now, Aggro, game 1 far from over. Going to be made easier if the Jade Dragons can get this Pyromancer inbound over the wall. Don't think he's looking for the steal, and the Jade Dragons grab the Pyro. This is a very long set. Depending on how this works out, the ebbs and flows of picks and bans are going to be very interesting.
Map, but now FinoK is unlocked on that right-hand side as he pushed that tower down all by himself. Already knocked it down. 5v5 groupings is where the Jade Dragons are strongest, and that's what they should be doing.
Hey, purple buff's up. That means Jade Dragons are here. Red buff's up. That means they're here as well. Solar Scarabs might show some face this time. Purple buff is an afterthought as Panda Cat grabs that one. Hurrywind and inbound, dueling it out a bit as River's Rebuke goes up from Mike. Does trap Baronic in, but there's no one there to call him on. It looks like red buff was taken by the Jade Dragons, but up and over the wall goes Scream. Ragnarok onto one, and it's Polar Bear Mike right on the other side of the Riptide. Here comes Sot, and he's on the backside of this fight, but Sanford Soccer will jump his way on out. Bat out of Hell swoops through. No one dead yet.
Hurry's going to have a huge ult here. Scream's already gone. Panda Cat took care of him, and this is exactly where the Jade Dragons want the Scarabs.
SOT, he lives, but not for much longer. Panda Cat will capitalize on a 3-level lead. Double kill for the Heimdall, and the Jade Dragons, they will take red, they will take purple, they will take 3, and they'll take it to go.
And Stuart was never even a part of that conversation. He was coming back from base, and Panda Cat is the lead right now for the Jade Dragons. So to take a fight around his side of the map is already a little bit sketchy, and then you do it without Stuart there. Sure, Solar Patrol beat FinoK on the rotation, and I'm seeing Solar Patrol come in from the right, and I'm thinking, all right, this could be good for the Solar Scarabs. And then I just do a quick pan of where's Panda Cat? Ah, he's in the fight. Scarabs can't win. They can't win. He's too big right now. He has too much farm. And unless he is the one caught out first, I don't see a world in which the Scarabs can actually win a 4-on-4 or a 5-on-5. We haven't seen Sam for Soccer on this Awillish just dominate all these leap characters. It's about the implication, Dave. That's what's important for the Awillish, is that it just means that you can't play aggressively around her ever. So even if she's not killing you
because of the implication,
it's just making it very hard for you to execute on your game plan. And sometimes that's enough.
Oh man, that's a lot of damage from FinoK. Stuart actually looks like he won a bit of a scrap there with Panda Cat.
He crushed him.
Who had to Bifrost away.
4 levels down.
Yeah, it's a 4-level differential. A full item. An item in 2/3 even.
Did Panda's monitor turn off?
Yeah, I'm not sure what happens there, but the implication of that moment is that maybe Stuart's starting to realize that he can output some decent damage, depending, of course, on what happens there on left. But far cry from what we've seen happening as Panda Cat has to find an early exit.
Yeah, that's surprising. I want to see what happened over here. We got a quick replay of Panda Cat trying to take this 1v1 up against Stuart. Maybe.
And the banish was gone?
Yeah, I'm very surprised. I mean, I watched him walk up from this position, and I'm thinking, Stu's in a little bit of trouble here. He's not, by the way. Freya, by the way. 4 levels down, by the way.
That was like 2 auto attacks away from a solo. 4 levels down onto Panda Cat. All right.
Okay.
Stu showing up a bit when his team needs him.
And I won,
right?
down 4 levels. I think that might be, things were starting to look ugly for a little bit. Maybe they're starting to feel a bit better.
Pivotal for SOT to survive here on the right side of the map because the time has arrived. 2 minutes since we
They don't
brought
know.
it up. The Jade Dragons are going to pull the FG,
Now
but look
they
at the
know.
Solar Scarabs. 4 members are mid or left on the map at least. It's only SOT who's over here on right. He has Bat Out of Hell, but he will not make an attempt. The Jade Dragons, sub 18 minutes, will grab the first Fire Giant of Worlds, and they will continue to snowball in game 1.
I'd like to remedy my statement. I think the Scarabs did know, and they know also that it didn't matter if they knew that
they
they
got wards,
can't do
right.
it. They just can't do it on that right-hand side. They never win a 5-on-5 in this position. You have to try and take it on your Phoenix. And again, we're going to have to watch. How can they use these ultimates? Can Scream hit an ultimate on a priority target, force those beads, and then allow Inbound to go in and be the follow-up, or vice versa? Either way, they've got to separate a priority target from the rest of the team, because if they let the Dragons group up, I don't see how they beat them.
Jump in from Inbound onto Panda Cat, who has used his beads. Bifrost awaiting on the other end. Riptide there from Mike as well, but that'll send SOT forward. Scream jumps up and over the wall. Big 1v1 here as Panda Cat is pulled back into Scream, back into the quicksand, but the River's Rebuke from Mike separates out the Solar Scarabs. Bat Out of Hell says goodbye to the 3-level lead of Panda Cat. Save for Soccer, goes back through, execute range on SOT, but Final K not there to collect. Solar Scarabs find 1.
And I just hate that decision from the Dragons to group up at that point because they don't have Heroine. They haven't been able to back and spend their gold. The Scarabs just take a good fight there. The Jade Dragons just kind of assuming surely the Scarabs are just going to roll over and let us take this tier 2. But the Scarabs show up, and they do exactly what we were just talking about. Falling a little bit behind in order to get Panda Cat really ahead. And so far, it certainly has been, even with Panda Cat taking that last step.
Jade Dragons still have 4 on the FG, everyone but Panda Cat, and you got 1 minute and 20 seconds left to get a little extra gold, knock down these last couple of towers, set up a win condition for yourself as game 1 rolls on. But we have officially gotten a bit out of control in the gold department, but Inbound didn't get the memo. He's got Hurrywind instead, who uses both of his actives, but the Jean Qui will live on. Stinger flies out as well. The Jade Dragons grouping as 5 protect their mid.
Man, that's a couple of times, though, Dave, that we see these backliners get picked up by the Ragnarok, and they take the scenic route. They take the leisurely stroll, and then at the end go, I guess I'll beads. That's twice now, and that just can't continue to happen. It's either we're using it or we're not.
Oh, Inbound pulled back through. That's a Riptide for Mike, who's got another 2 underneath the tier 1 or tier 2 tower rather in mid. And the Jade Dragons will knock down the final tower on the map that the Solar Scarabs had standing. The Solar Scarabs have not counted themselves out of any of their sets so far here as of late. This team playing some of their best Smite, and they'll need to play some more of it in game 1 and in game 2 and on if they want to have a chance against this Jade Dragons team who are playing out of their minds to start off the SWC. Fire Giant is up. SOT is close. Riptide into Gravity Surge. Cannot press buttons, but he presses the most important one, and that is ult. But it is to get on out. Jade Dragons will take the second FG of the game.
Yeah, they know SOT doesn't have beads. He went Blink and Meditation, so he knows that's a pretty free one if we can pull him in. I like the idea to try and CC chain him. Just short on damage.
Whoa! What? Stuart! What? Oh, before my eyes, as God is my witness, Stuart is gone. The Jade Dragons and Sanford Soccer specifically delete the Freya. There will be no late game. Not right now. Level 18 on Stuart, and it'll stay that way.
Stu! 4 Aegis?
No, we don't have time for that. We don't have time for any of that. Sam is going too quick, and so is the right side Phoenix. Now is the time for the Solar Scarabs to put up their defense, but Inbound has gone in alone, and he will jump out alone. Right side Phoenix gone.
And that's easy, because it's a 5v4, and Stewart's not up for another 20. And I think the Jade Dragons should be able to get this mid one as well with their mid wave here. And even though I didn't like Sam playing so aggressively earlier, hard to argue with that one, right? Playing with confidence.
This Phoenix is absolutely melting. You got 10 seconds left till Stu is back on the map. Beads down from Hurrywind once more. Final K, the spearhead of this Jade Dragons team, walks in towards the mid lane, crossing all of our T's and dotting all of our I's. The Jade Dragons shift to left.
Man, it just seems clinical right now from the Jade Dragons, but they don't have a wave here on the left-hand side, and now Stewart is up, and Hurricane doesn't have beads. This is the least free Phoenix of them all. frankly, I'm a bit surprised that Jade Dragons are still here.
They're sticking around. 2.5 minutes on their Fire Giant buff. The Solar Scarabs got to get something done now. Doesn't look much better underneath your Titan. Scream agrees. Walks in, takes damage, walks out. But Polar Bear Mike now banished. Can you capitalize on the Emojo who's up in the air? No, you can't. The Riptides have been on point all game long. And this one, no different.
Still no wave, and it's not coming anytime soon, so this is
so
exactly what it is for the Jade Dragons.
Whoa, Gravity Surge on the Sot, but this time Bat Out of Hell follows right on the other end. Inbound's gotta leave.
Stu's
And
in.
the River's Rebuke will keep Sot right where he's at on the other end of his ultimate. Panda Cat boxing it out with the Kamazots. Final K banished up into the nether, but down he goes. Sanford Soccer melting away. Baronic putting out damage. Baronic finds a big kill into the left side Phoenix.
And the left side Phoenix still standing. The Solar Scarabs now still with 5, gonna try and catch this Jade Dragons roster.
Whoa, Final K finds a nice stun. There is some sustain from PBM.
Oh, they got
But
Panda.
there's an ultimate on a Panda Cat. His beads immediately used. And that'll put the Heimdall right where he's at. The Solar Scarabs show up. Only find one onto Sam, but lose both right and mid Phoenixes.
Yeah, their Titan's going to take a bit of damage as well, but that doesn't matter too much. I mean, the Jade Dragons knew that that was risky. But at the end of the day, I mean, even let's say the worst case scenario happens there and all 5 members of the Jade Dragons get wiped. They can't lose. You know, it's too early in the game. There's too many towers up.
Over these last
so
few
it's
fights, the damage plus presence of mind from Fino has kept the Solar Scarabs back and has opened the door for Panda Cat to keep doing what he is and Hurrywin to walk forward as well.
Yeah, your shout on Final K is fantastic because he got a multi-man stun in that fight. He actually blocked a stinger that would have insta-killed Sam and slowed that fight down a lot.
Wow, inbound, and the Jade Dragons, we're fighting here. It's an ultimate out from Panda Cat. Ragnarok in onto Hurrywind, who uses his beads. Gravity Surge onto Sot. Bat Out of Hell once again with a sliver of HP. That'll put the Solar Scarab solo laner out of the fight. Left side Phoenix is going to go down here as the Jade Dragons as 3 find the River's Rebuke. Inbound does not have his ultimate, but he does have his leap. Final K, who else? Walks into 5, and the Solar Scarabs, they will turn their eyes towards Hurrywind, jumping back through. Big banish on the Fino.
That huge banish was big, but it still ends up with the Scarabs down with 0 Phoenixes. Their right side Phoenix has respawned, and it actually could survive. Stewart here? No! The Fire Archers get the job done, and this sets up the Jade Dragons beautifully for yet another Fire Giant. And this idea that Sot has not gone beads, it's all these Riptides from Mike. That's how he's getting pulled back off these Gravity Surges. It's not like Solar Troll is just using his jump all over the place and not really taking a care in the world, getting knocked up by Sam from max range, which should be impossible. It's PBM making these plays happen with these max range Riptides.
How many times have we seen Bat Out of Hell used aggressively? I'd say maybe once. Polar Bear Mike is going to have to use a Riptide on himself here. Catches 2 of the Solar Scarabs as well. Are we fighting over the FG? It's not even enhanced just yet. The Solar Scarabs and SOT specifically, once again, used a Bat Out of Hell. Ragnarok also down, so is Gravity Surge.
Yeah, that's still a fine trade, I think, for both sides. You know, you don't end up using too much, but it's positional advantage as Fino K continues to push forward.
Oh my god, it is an absolute onslaught from this Achilles as Fino K will not be denied. 1 minute away from Enhanced Fire Giant here for the Jade Dragons. The Solar Scarabs have not shown up to the previous 2 FGs. Hard pressed to see a world where they show up to this one. Gonna have to be
wonder if they
maybe mid lane Phoenix, maybe Titan defense here for the Scarabs. But the Jade Dragons, you got one grouping as 5 to give you a 1-0 lead.
Yeah, I think that that's all it's gonna take from this position because the Scarabs have come close in a couple of these fights, but it's never been, you know, oh, they nearly team wiped them there. It was, oh, we almost killed another player.
Almost got a kill.
Yeah, we almost got 2 instead of just 1 in that situation, whereas the Jade Dragons have been hovering the knife at the throat of the Scarabs basically since the game started.
Well, since we last checked in on Stewart's build, he's upgraded his starter item. That's it. Still a full item down under Panda Cat, but you are a late game Freya. We need you to stand up big. If you're the Scarabs or a Scarabs fan or one of their players, this is the moment where these late game builds start to find their impact. The Jade Dragons as 5 are in the mid. They have all the time in the world on left and right. The fire minion waves will be pushing in there. You can buy your time and you can find the engage that works for you.
No reason to lose your patience now if you're the Jade Dragons. Just let these fire waves push, let them get into the base, and force Solar Scarabs to make some tough decisions. Now, it is good that their Titan is pretty healthy here for the Scarabs, but that's still both sides of fire waves.
Someone might have to shift over to right here soon. Fire minions are going to be on to the Titan as the Jade Dragons posture forward just a bit more. Fine, okay. He's under the Phoenix. then has taken effectively no damage.
None.
Up to this point, the Solar Scarabs have lost half of the HP on the mid lane. Phoenix Fire minions pouring down the right side, left side as well.
Watch out for this mantle here for Solar Troll. That's going to mean if they pull him in, he's going to get a big stun.
Yeah, good point. Need a big stun onto the Jade Dragons.
There's
Inbound
one.
into the back. Hurrywind uses both of the actives to stay alive, but the beads time out, and that'll pull him right back into the awaiting arms, and they will
That's a lot of
finally get the
damage.
kill. Scream finds the opening kill
Panda.
on the Hurrywind. The Jade Dragons re-engage, and Sanford Soccer has got the kill. Half
Titan.
HP on everyone. Titan down beneath half as well. The Jade Dragons buy their engage, and they'll take game one.
That is just absolutely dominant from the Jade Dragons. They thought they could get away with this late game scaling on that left-hand side, and just when you thought maybe Stewart could start to make an impact, Sam two-shot
around some of those sieges. I think that they did play it a little bit hesitant at times, but at the end of the day, they knew that they could just pretty much pile drive right through, and that's exactly what we saw from Sam, especially on that Awelish. Again, highlighting that Freya instance over by the right side Phoenix. That certainly is not great for the mental, so to say, but it is only game one. It's a possible best of 5 here, and I think more importantly than anything else, Stuart just has to keep in mind, yeah, I'm Freya, yeah, I got picked, but I'm also playing Freya with literally 0 frontline, which is by far worst case scenario for any Hunter player.
There were a lot of opportunities. I mean, even that one is a perfect example, right? If you have a tank that can peel for you, it's much easier. I mean, it's not something we've seen in a long time, but like Ymir, hey, I've got a wall, I've got a freeze. Anybody with a stun is really going to be able to help out a little bit more. But we got to see it a lot, and you'll see him maybe on the receiving end of this, yeah, right there. Solar Troll, Hazer, wasn't really that tanky for a lot of these fights.
No, he decided to go without the beads, and that got really, really well punished by the combination of PVM and Sam. With the 3 into the Gravity Surge there coming out the Willix. He was pulled back in consistently, and before the fight started...
You're seeing that possibility of the Mercury ban or even the Hell ban not really be as heavily prioritized here for the Solar Scarabs. Yamoja, if you're going to prioritize the likes of Freya or even the Amus and Cobb response pick initially from the Solar Scarabs, I would not want to be taking that Amus and Cobb straight into the Yamoja matchup, because best case scenario, you have a little bit of lane control during the laning phase, but as soon as it devolved into the team fighting aspect, Jade Dragons just had full control. They completely picked apart that duo side of the map as well with the jungle. We saw plenty of buff invades. That was exactly what I was looking for leading into this one.
Yeah.
So if anything, the Jade Dragons kind of made a statement with their first game to the Solar Scarabs in that they're not going to let that duo lane be a walk in the park, like kind of what we saw with the Freya picks up against the Warriors during placements.
It's definitely something needed to.
I would be very surprised to see the Solar Scarabs get their hands on Olorun, though, because Jade Dragons, if they've been paying any attention, like I'm sure they have been, there's just no realistic way for the Olorun to slip through the cracks here. And if anything, it's honestly a little bit weird here that Solar Scarabs, they're actually prioritizing that secondary pick. And it looks as though they're going to stick true to their guns, at least from that first go-around. If they don't take out the Yamoja here, I'd have to imagine that the Jade Dragons would just offer it again.
Well, they'd go instead for the Amus and Cobb, which is very notably not Yamoja, so you are absolutely right that the Dragons are going to lock it in right here. But AMC, I mean, I mentioned it at placements, save for Valks and I think one of the SCC teams, 100% win rate, primarily through mid, though, Hazer. It doesn't feel like something that Hurrywind's going to pull out often.
No, yeah. I don't know if it's a hurry pick. We haven't seen him on it, I don't think. We've seen him underneath as his Hunter mid, and that's about all we've seen him pull out. As this Olorun did get through this time and will be picked up, that is the switch up. I'm surprised that the Scarab stuck with second pick, but at least they've switched up their Mage ADC pick. No more Freya. Olorun, I think, going to be a lot more effective and let them get to the team fight stage. And maybe if they hold out like they did in the last game, they might be able to win fights if there's an Olorun there and that Sanctified Field's coming through.
Taka, how do you feel about the Yamoja over the Olorun? Because I know we were talking about it, like how that is, it feels like a win condition for the Scarabs to have this pick. And we know that the Yamoja isn't necessarily the end-all be-all for them.
It might just turn into that situation here for whoever's piling the Olorun. I'd have to figure probably more likely to be in Stuart's hands, but I'd still view it as all the same, because Yamoja, as long as she has that River's Rebuke, it's just, you're like, I'm not trapped in here with you, you're trapped in here with me. Anytime that Sanctified Field comes out, I would imagine those Yamoja walls are going to follow immediately after. The Zhongqi as well introduces a lot of that same old control of space, and between Zhongqi and the Yamoja, it's going to be a little bit difficult, I'd imagine, for this Olorun to really maneuver.
Difficult to stand forward the way that we need Stuart to. I mean, after last game, it feels like all of the Scarabs need to step up, but Stuart specifically has had a magnifying glass on him. especially, I mean, rookie season, you have to think about it. This guy hasn't actually even been playing in the SPL for a full year at this point. So on the world stage, a lot of pressure to perform. The Wheelish pick comes back, though. And this one stands out, Hazer, because last time it was into the Fenrir, the Camazotz, the Bastet, and an Amus and Cobb. Very easy to deal with. Olorun's still easy to deal with. Bastet's still there, but it feels a lot earlier.
Yeah, I guess this must be something the Dragons have been practicing. They must be really confident in this combination of Umoja and a Wheelish. And going by how PBM played this Umoja last time, I'm not surprised. He hit everything, every three. He was hitting two-man threes under the tower. Sam could pick who he wanted to ult in, who he wanted to pull in. And if PBM continues to set up like he has been, then I don't see this a Wheelish ult being hard to get off. And as Serket comes through, another target that can be grabbed by that gravity surge.
And it feels like, I mean, again, yesterday watching all of the World's Finals of years past, there's a lot of metas where this draft doesn't necessarily stand out. This meta, though, it stands out quite a lot. I mean, Taco, it feels like it has to be a Serket support, I would guess, right? And that just doesn't feel right for what we've been seeing the last few months.
There's definitely been some rumors about Bastet's viability in terms of her flexibility, but seeing Bastet in the support, I don't know if that's really an experiment the Solar Scares would want to opt for when they're already down a game. So yeah, I'd imagine that the Serket most likely to be in that support position, but it brings a lot of the same issues that we saw from the Solar Scarabs in game one, in that their crowd control presence as far as the outright 5v5 is concerned is definitely seeming a little bit lackluster in comparison to that of the Jade Dragons, and this is only just from the top three. So if the Solar Scarabs are maybe looking to turn things around here, might be looking to introduce a Guardian to that solo role, especially since Achilles has been taken off the board.
And that's something that I think it was actually Aggro at one point on Twitter in the last couple of weeks had mentioned that he expected Achilles to be one of the top tier picks and bans. We already got to see it picked up in the top 2 and the top 3 there for the Dragons last time, now banned away. At least trying to stifle some of this draft, but the Umoja, Wheelish, Zhang Kui are the exact same. They are going to limit it because now Heimdall's gone as well. And the other bans on the other side for the Dragons were the Charybdis and the Guan Yu, which is a direct shot at solo Troll. But it feels, I mean, Hazer at this point as if the Scarabs, again, are letting the draft get away from them a little bit.
Yeah, I'm actually pretty surprised they grabbed that Serket in the 3rd spot instead of going to that Charybdis, which Baronic's typically really valued in the mid lane. It feels like Serket wasn't something that would have got banned away, so I guess that Baronic must have a pick he has in mind here, which is not that, as we see Osiris locked in here. That's going to give a little bit of solo side pressure, I guess. We're going to see probably some big fights over towards the solo side here from the Scarab. Scream and Solo going to have to combine.
And it feels weird. I've gotten so used to seeing Osiris in the jungle this year. I mean, how does it fare? Well, I was going to say against their lane matchup, but we don't know his lane matchup as of yet. I guess in conjunction with the rest of this team, it's now another god with a leap that a Wheelish is going to be able to capitalize on. And like, is this something that is worrisome for the Scarabs, or is this a solid pick to help shut down at least some of the healing?
Well, fortunately for Osiris, Lord of the Afterlife,
CC
not gonna really be able to get caught out by that gravity surge. But on the other hand, the Osiris is just very individual pick oriented. That's really everything so far from the Solar Scarabs outside of that sanctified field. But when you think about how game one went and the impact of that laning phase overall, it was the Jade Dragons who took advantage of the duo side pressure. And I have some concerns that that could be the focus here again, because Chiron's still available. I think when you have these comps that have such limited amounts of crowd control, Chiron could be a hunter that really sticks out, because training exercise would just be very strong, I think, at negating a lot of that pick potential that the Solar Scarabs seem to be opting for.
And something that we have seen from the Dragons a few times throughout the year. And admittedly, Phase 2 was when I think they were the ones hammering it forward, really causing it. Another thing that is a Jade Dragons very specific pick is this Mulan. And sometimes it is something that I think Sam has fought to pull out into the jungle. Didn't necessarily work out well for him. Taco, you get your Chiron, but Hazer, we get a Fino K Mulan showing up here.
Yeah, Fino, he did show this pick at the play-ins and looked really, really good on it. I think he whipped it out game 5 up against the Bolts when all the chips were on the table. Fino K went to the Mulan, controlled the lane, won his team the game, or at least was a big part of it. And this Chiron, great shout there by Taco, comes through. I actually think it could have been a good pick for Baronic as well in the mid lane. So it's almost a takeaway from the Scarabs at the same time as being a great pick for Panda Cat.
Now this is something, I guess, Taco, the Osiris matchup up against a Mulan specifically, is that one that is going to go very heavily? I mean, Mulan sometimes can be an absolute bully, and Fino K specifically can be a bully.
I think that one thing that Jade Dragons are doing super well with these solo lane matchups, they're just going for outright stalemates. They're not really giving solo Troll the opportunity to be an overall lane bully throughout the laning phase portion.
It's important,
and
Dave, because it has the least. It doesn't change the set nearly as much as the other
ones. The amount that it changes the set is what I base that off of.
Yes.
The difference between Dragons being up 2-0,
massive,
and being tied up 1-1, ridiculous. It's a canyon between the two options.
Yep.
That being said, or with that being said, the Solar Scarabs need to show up here. Baronic goes back to something a little bit more standard as far as the mid lane goes. He gets the Tiamat. But the Solar Scarabs are sticking with the magical ADC for Stewart. And still a duo lane aggro and still a jungler for Sam for Soccer that you feel like could punish that left side.
Yeah, I think so. I mean, Solar Troll's in trouble. No, okay, he's okay. Big heal there from the Warriors Axe proc. Yes, the Scarabs have made some adjustments as they split mid-harpies on this left-hand side. I thought Hurry was going to get both. They've made some adjustments, but I don't know if it's enough, Dave. They have more pressure on the right-hand side, which is a good start. But still, I don't know if it's enough because when you've got this magical hunter, whether it's the Olorun or the Freya, you have to do something on the Scarabs to make the Jade Dragons not want to do what they did in Game 1, which is just sit at the purple buff and the red buff and go, cool, these are ours now and there's nothing you can do about it. And the ways that you do that are either drafting enough fight, whether it be on this left-hand side, the right-hand side, or in mid lane, in order to make it so that if they show up, we'll win the fight, which is hard to do whenever you've got the Magical Hunter. That's why the invades work in the first place. Or you have to put enough pressure on the other side of the map to actually say, hey, Sam, you can't keep going left because you'll lose the game if you do. And I just don't know that they've done that, even with getting Final K off that Achilles and onto this Mulan. I like the Osiris a lot more here for Solar Troll. But the big thing that I wanted to see was a different pick here in the mid lane for Baronic, but he picked low pressure instead of high pressure.
Looking towards the late game, looking towards the early game is Scream, though. Gets the root on a Panicat who's got no beads. A Riptide perfect from PBM, and the 3v2 will not work out. Solar Scarabs send Scream to left at level 3, and Scream will leave empty-handed.
It looked weird there from Panicat, but I think his pre-beads into dash was incredibly smart, but now Hurrywind's in trouble.
Hurrywind over from mid lane as well. This is a path that Hurrywind chose for himself. Mike here to bail him out with the Riptide yet again, but the Solar Scarabs are relentless. Nice stun from Mike. Slows down inbound, but Scream has got eyes for the Zhong Kui, and Hurrywind walking away. Baronic beat forward, gets a knockup, but there will be no kill onto Hurry. There will be no kill onto Mike, and the Solar Scarabs chase him out, but still got nothing.
Wow, unbelievable that they both live there, and so does Panicat. To get no first blood there is absolutely shocking to me, but it's still not bad for the Solar Scarabs. They got both sets of buff. They got beads from both from Panicat and from Hurrywin. So an artifact. Surprised that Sam's going to this right-hand side. Really expected him to go left and set up for this buff.
Final K's got eyes for SOT, who has taken a whole heap of damage. Ultimate out from Fino. SOT answers in kind. Scream with the jump away. Sam for Soccer. Fishing comes up empty-handed this time. That means some pressure for the Jade Dragons on left. They'll get both Oracles and the Greater Scorpion. Gold in the lead. The Scarabs have found some return picks. Both teams okay to just take a deep breath at this point. 700 gold is all the Jade Dragons have to show for it. You spread that out over the team. Talking about negligible gold amounts, and that is why the Solar Scarabs still feeling okay to engage. It is Sam for Soccer ulted by inbound. Here comes Sot from the solo lane. First blood avoided.
Ooh.
Sam for Soccer will not die. PBM has got the last bit of healing, but you know who will die? It's Scream in the mid lane, left alone, isolated, and deleted by Hurrywin.
Love that play there by the Jade Dragons. They know that they can't help Sam no matter what. So Sam, good luck. We'll see if we see you, but otherwise, we're just going to be winning the team fight in front of us.
Soccer, the ability to engage cannot be understated. The ability to disengage, maybe a tool that he has in his belt as well. The last bit of tick damage, I was for sure was going to take him down here. 33 HP in a dream is all Sam for Soccer had. Going to need all of his HP pool to survive this one. Surely he doesn't get out alive this time. Solar Scarabs answer back, and it's Scream now on the board. Same thing that we saw in Game 1 with Scream answering back, but it could look better for the Solar Scarabs this time. Baronic from the mid lane gets the Tiamat going.
Inbound might be getting caught, but it's Serket, man. No problem for him in order to use that mobility. A clean 2 for 0 for the Solar Scarabs, and just a little bit too much of an overstay there from Sam and Final K.
This is what you needed to see if you're the Solar Scarabs, is an answer back to the early pressure that the Jade Dragons were throwing, especially from Game 1 to Game 2. The ability to stall the momentum after a knockdown, drag-out win like the Dragons had in Game 1, show up, show some face in Game 2.
I think is important, and clearly their primary game plan is different than what I expected. But
Right.
I think that the first Game 1 looked pretty good to me.
Right.
I would have run that back.
Yeah, to double down, especially when the power curve for the Solar Scarabs on the left side potentially looks similar. Fine, okay, 2 levels down on the Mulan. You're not picking a Mulan to be 2 levels down outside of the laning phase. At least even is what you would hope. And so you'll need some scaling time for Fino, but SOT just wailing away on Mulan right now. And so the Osiris becomes a very important threat for the Jade Dragons to identify. Scream, why not? Go walk into your speed buff, take it away. Sam for Soccer, once again, loses a bit of his right side jungle. Could we see the 1v1? Scream wants it. Sam for Soccer mounts up. Hello, solo kill. Scream gets it done, and the Bastet starting to wind up.
This is worst case scenario now for the Jade Dragons because they just don't have any pressure anywhere. How is the Tiamat Bastet comp winning this hard in the mid game? They just took bad fights around the wrong objectives, and the Solar Scarabs have punished them perfectly.
Gold Fury for the Solar Scarabs. This would expand on their lead. Polar Bear Mike will not make it easy. Riptide out, but Inbound's got something else in mind. Sanctified Field out. Polar Bear Mike jumped on. Inbound grabs the kill. It's a River's Rebuke that is up at Hurrywind. He's squishier this time than he was in Game 1, and another kill rolls over to the Solar Scarabs 13 minutes in, and they got 4 extra kills.
And they're going to be able to grab some more gold potentially. Panda Cat is here, and Sam is on the way. This is critical for the Solar Scarabs to secure, and they should be able to get it even with the Oracle Vision there for the Jade Dragons.
Yeah, Panda Cat without ult, no real steal chance there. Lots of low health bars. A weaker mental, and that's me, by the way, would be going in there trying to find some of those kills, but Panda Cat realizing that's a fruitless
Down
effort.
1,500. Experience probably going to be worse. You know, there's 5 levels of difference total on the right side of the map here for the Solar Scarabs. Yeah, 6,000 experience looks about right to me, but still okay.
A lot of it here in the solo lane. 3-level lead for SOT. Fine, okay, he will be locked in place. Shouldn't be much of a chance for an escape here. It's just a matter of who gets it. Although the ultimate and the sustain keeps him where he's at. SOT from range knocks down Fino, and the Osiris continues to wind up here, aggro, and it has been a steady even to 1-level lead for Sot. Builds up to 3 now, as the right side of the map, which is where the Dragons had put emphasis, hasn't had much to show for it.
And at least if they were putting pressure on the left-hand side, they'd have something to show, even though it isn't going their way.
By the Jade Dragon. Solar Scarabs, they've got only 1 less Tier 1, and so they'll be able to grab that gold, you would assume, back for themselves here with 1 concerted push.
Yeah, Fine OK knows that he's in trouble here, so he's going to have to give up this blue buff. No way that he ends up fighting the level 17 Osiris. And Solar Troll has just played this game so well. I mean, he missed that first ultimate and dropped the first blood onto Sam, and I was a little worried.
You wondered, right?
Yeah, I did wonder about the mental state and how he was going to stay locked in. He really has.
Hurrywind taunted in by Inbound, uses the beads.
Scream.
So Zhongkui, I was going to say, should be fine.
He don't miss.
Scream has got something else in mind. Pre-beads as he jumps in. Hurrywind is an afterthought for Scream, who is on a killing spree. 2nd time's a charm, but Panda Cat has rotated over from the duo lane, and he'll return 1.
Solar Troll's here, but this tower healthy enough to stop the initiation there from Solar Troll, and it ends up being a 1-for-1, and you take those from this position. They needed something for the Jade Dragons.
2,000 to 3,000 hovered right in that department. Will the Dragons feel comfortable enough to show up for the Primal Fury? The answer looks like yes. As the Jade Dragons as 5 rotate over to the left side of the map. It is Fine OK engaged on by Inbound, who has been unstoppable. Hurrywind sent right back in. Ultimate hits from Scream this time, but Fine OK not brought fully back in, as Inbound will have to disengage.
But Hurrywind using the ultimate is maybe even bigger than Scream using his. That is a huge cooldown to lose, and we've been talking about the Jade Dragons team fight being their strength. Well, Recall Demons is a big part of that team fight strength, and it was really a good play from Fine OK. He ate the ultimate there from Scream so that Hurry didn't get pulled, but that's why Hurrywind ulted. He thought he was going to be pulled in.
Scream blinked out. This is a defensive usage of the Relic to keep himself out of harm's way of the Jade Dragons, who were looming. As SOT at level 19, that is a 4-level lead over Fine OK. The Osiris, the raid boss that's found its way into the back line, the front line of the Jade Dragons, all of it seems to be forfeit here. Wherever SOT looks, That's what he's got. Primal Fury low, Polar Bear Mike Riptide through. The
reset.
Fury is dropped and reset by the Solar Scarabs as SOT controls the left side. Sanctified Field is out, and it is huge. The Solar Scarabs have found the perfect engage SOT. The chainsaw revving up as FinoK jumped on and chopped down. SOT has got 2. The Jade Dragons, 3 left alive. Scream hits another. Here comes the Osiris. Triple kill for Sot.
Oh, man.
Scream takes the 4th away. The Scarabs will not be denied. Give him the quad, baby. Set him up, knock him down. Sot's got 4.
Unbelievable, man. Solar Troll just was unstoppable in that fight. He just planted himself in the Jade Dragons backline and said, do something about it. And they said, no, thank you. We will not, because we can't even if we want to. Solar Troll just created so much space. Stewart's Sanctified Field was absolutely perfect. Locked in 2 members that just didn't have that team fight capability anymore. As soon as they get slowed down by that Sanctified Field, Scream, of course, does not miss, as we've already covered. And the rest of the Solar Scarabs are just right on time. Beautiful team fighting there from the Solar Scarabs, but someone's got to talk to someone. Who was it that sold Sot's Penta? Because that was a pentakill, man. He had that locked up.
It was. I was for sure. I was winding up.
I know.
Was getting ready to go. He almost got it anyway. As if
look at this.
This is a solo laner's just dream, right? If you're a solo lane player, just enjoy what you're about to see.
Yeah, I mean, what is anyone supposed to do? Especially with Panda's build that's mace heavy, he could be auto-attacking Solar Troll for the next 15 seconds, and I don't think he would kill him. He is that far ahead.
It's right.
And Panicat just can't do it. I mean, the tether on Panicat's ultimate.
That one. No, it's the dot.
Oh, brutal.
No.
Absolutely brutal. That should have been a world's Penta there for Solar Troll, no doubt about it. He would have earned it. I mean, even the tether usage on Panicat whenever he goes to ult, meaning that ult won't do as much damage. I mean,
right.
Just perfect.
The Scarabs have. Sot has been consistent for this team.
When Sot is on, he looks like the best solo laner in the world. It's just a matter of he's not always on, and that decision-making at times can be very good, and other times it is game-losing. And that's been the problem for him this season and really his whole career.
Pandacat's got to use the B tier and Centaurus, but inbound.
And Aegis.
Have eyes for him. Aegis down as well. Ultimate, all the defensive utilities gone for the Jade Dragons Hunter, as 5 members of the Scarabs still have Fire Giant buff. They've got 2.5 minutes to work with it. Mid lane Tier 1 and Tier 2 are gone. You got Tiamat minions pushing down there as well. You're going to see a big gold spike here. 10,000 is where the Solar Scarabs stand. And Aggro, I haven't seen anything from the Jade Dragons that has shown me much confidence in their ability to defend any of these Phoenixes. Feels like the Scarabs playing with house money.
I mean, there's just Game 1 was really dominant from the Jade Dragons. Game 2 was equally dominant from the Solar Scarabs. And this has kind of been the story for the Jade Dragons this year, is that someone's getting crushed in their games. It's just them or their opposition. He's not getting that much stronger. He's only got his last item to finish. He's already upgraded his starter. And eventually, him standing in the midst of 5 will get him killed. Now, he'll still do utility, all that kind of good stuff. But with I don't like the build path here for Whirlwind and for Sam. They're going defense. They need to actually threaten this Osiris.
Sanctified Field down. This time doesn't catch out onto many, but FinoK has been brought right back to the Solar Scarabs. Your front line is melting, Jade Dragons. It is time to wake up, but instead PBM goes to bed. Whirlwind chased down on the right by the Solar Scarabs. We are playing quickly. All of a sudden, Baronic has got 2. Looking for a 3rd back into the fountain, but Whirlwind will sustain back up. We are not looking for the end. We're looking for the right side bird.
Oh, they've got it for sure. That front line, as you mentioned, just absolutely decimated. But Fire Giant has now fallen off of the Solar Scarabs, which means they aren't getting any sort of sustain. They don't have healing besides this little Ola Run 3, which is nice, but not enough to sustain you through another Phoenix Siege.
Give it away, extend this game out, or are we more likely to defend under the Phoenix under our Titan?
I mean, what's your recourse when Stewart just drops Sanctified Field like he did? What's the game plan then? I'm not sure.
Okay, well, here's your answer.
Well, it's not. Yeah, it's what do you do when he does it on fire? You at least have a little bit more room to navigate, but they just don't have relics. They can't possibly step up in that situation.
Now, here's what's important as FinoK dies. That's pretty important alone. I was actually about to make that point about. I was about to make that point about inbound. There are times where inbound is overextended and he gets picked in a moment like that, and the Scarabs are limited in their ability to push. It's the exact opposite now. Now it's FinoK is inbound mobile enough on this Circuit to avoid the solo kill. FinoK not. Now you're fighting without your primary tank. You need FinoK in this engagement. And the Jade Dragons back up. They backpedal beneath their Titan. No Phoenix defense to be had.
Yeah, I mean, and I don't see it happening on this left side Phoenix either. So now it's on our Titan, and
Can you
Stewart's
delay
still
15
on sanctified
seconds?
field.
I don't even know if you can delay 15 seconds
Maybe
here,
not.
Aggro. Fine OK is up in 10. And I think you're going to be at a 4v5 on defense no matter how much time you delay. 5 seconds on Fine OK. We might be less than that in the game. The Solar Scarabs have eyes for game 3. Stewart has taken a chunk of damage here as Panda Cat makes his way back into the fountain. Baronic deletes Polar Bear Mike as the Scarabs as 5 group up on the Titan. There will not be a 2-0 for the Jade Dragons. The Solar Scarabs will tie us up and they will send us on to a game 3.
An emphatic game 2 from the Solar Scarabs, right on time, exactly what they needed.
Fantastic performance on that.
It didn't feel like maybe it should have done as well as it did, but it did. And that's all they have to show for it. A really, really good performance. Scream, the only player who died on the Scarabs throughout that entire game, but he only did it twice, so it's not like it's saying that much for them. A huge performance from him, to the point where, I mean, all of his ults were connecting. You get to see it here once again. Taco, it just felt like this Bastet goes hand in hand with him so well.
It was just snowball nation here for the Solar Scarabs. Once they got control of the lead, once they had their burst pressure online, it was practically impossible for the Jade Dragons to really look to respond. Their team fight, if they'd been on level footing, might have been a little bit more interesting. At least it definitely would have had some sort of a counter class potential against Solar Troll and Cyrus, but Solar Troll, he was level 19. Everybody else in the map was like 14, 15. He's just dominating every single one of those team fights. It was really just an impressive performance out of him and Scream.
And, you know, I was going to give Scream some trouble for this because that absolutely should have been a pentakill for Solar Troll, but it was tick damage. That wasn't like an active choice. Nuts for Solar Troll to put his name on that list. Something intense for them. Again, a lot of goose eggs in the death column there for the Scarabs, and a lot of kills for Baronic, Scream, and of course Solar Troll. 5-0-11, 7-0-11. And this Tiamat, Taco, I wasn't sure how I felt about it. I'm absolutely happy to see Baronic go back to it.
The primary thing to note again is really just the fact that Scream and Solar Troll, they were all about the challenge there from Fino K and Sam for Soccer. And the moment that the Jade Dragons opted to try and play through that solo side of the map into an Osiris Bastet of all things, it's just never really going to bode well for the team that has an Awilish. Just, I think, a directly more favorable 2v2 matchup there for the Scarabs.
And if they can take it, they're going to be more than happy with it. 18,000, almost 20,000 damage.
Whether or not the Jade Dragons, how many adjustments that they're planning on actually opting for?
Well, the Dragons, once again, are going to be first pick here. They're keeping this column, and you were kind of surprised last time, Taco, that the Scarabs had opted to remain second pick. And the Dragons seem to be just fine continuing to keep them over there. Yamoja has been the go-to for the Dragons. Hazer, do you see them changing anything up, I guess, if the bans stay the same?
I think the Dragons will probably stick with this Yamoja if they can get it. What I would like to see is they change up their bans a little bit. Maybe get rid of this Bastet. Maybe don't allow that Ul run to go through as maybe the changes I would be looking at if I were on their team. Scarabs, I think you're looking to stick with the same style, the same bans, the same comp that you picked in the last game.
Well, Nike has been the first ban for the Dragons every game so far, but now she is devoid of this list. It's still the Odin and the Izanami. They've got a third ban to mess around with. The other side, still the Hell, still the Mercury. Last time this was an Amus and Cobb ban where the Scarabs have it. The Dragons seem to be a little more deep in contemplation. I mean, Taco, is it Bastet? Is it Olaran? Because that was definitely one that he didn't have any troubles that game, but they weren't really playing on that side of the map.
They weren't playing through that duo side at all in game 2, and letting the Ola run through, though, is still a pretty heavy risk there for the Dragons, because we saw the benefit from Stewart as soon as he was able to join the team fights, having been completely uncontested there in that duo side matchup. Sanctified Field just covers so much of the objective play, you're really not left with many outs here, so even when you have team fights that can be split through that River's Rebuke of the Emotion, we saw some great ults from Polar Bear Mike, some that came a little bit later than what might have been anticipated, but at the end of the day, it just didn't really seem to make that much of an impact when compared to the Sanctified Field's impact.
And we saw that. It was actually at the end the one that stood out maybe the most to me, because it was a nice River's Rebuke from Mike, anticipating a Sanctified Field. Stewart just held on to it, and it's one of the best things that you can do in a game sometimes is not use your ult. And then, of course, had it for the perfect end for them. They get rid of that Olaran this time around, and they're going to make things a little harder for the Scarabs. Hunter, last time, 2 times ago, I should say, when he didn't have the Olaran, goes for the Freya. I don't know that we're going to be seeing that. The Freya Hazer didn't necessarily stand out to me. Hachiman's still a big pick. Like, a lot of Hunters are still important now.
Yeah, and we see a big takeaway here from the Dragons. They've grabbed the Bastet. They're not worried about Stuart's pick right now. They're worried about Scream. And they take away that
That's a
best
good call.
stat.
Be worried about Scream.
Yeah, I'm always worried about Scream.
Although, and again, we had talked about this, and you had mentioned it specifically. Najah's not at all anything that I think we should give a lot of time to, but like Najah Kali as well. A lot of things that Scream hasn't played so far today, but just because the Bastette's available, do you think that that's an easy like secondary go-to for him?
I think the Neja might have a pretty decent matchup into Bastet. I think Kali might struggle a little bit, those dots coming through from the Bastet, although she does have the root immunity on the ult, so maybe that could be useful for dealing with that 3. But I think Bastet wins a lot of 1v1s just by body blocking with the cat that comes out with that 3, which could make life a little bit more difficult for Kali.
And Taco, how do you feel about the Bastet for Sam? Because the Wheelish was definitely, at least in Game 1, it was a good counter pick. In Game 2, it felt like it was very early.
It was incredibly early. I think that the Jade Dragons put a little bit more emphasis onto the Wheelish in Game 2, just kind of to gauge whether or not it would be another success pick for them. But seeing the Solar Scarabs immediately prioritize their front line is certainly a 180 compared to the past 2 games where we've been seeing that front line come in those 4th, 5th pick slots. But knowing that they have the Bastet online, I think Solar Scarabs are just looking to try and split this Bastet's potential as much as possible by just looking for those separating forces throughout the team fight.
I always feel bad when I do this, but every time the Scarabs lock in the emoji, I have to. It's 3 wins total for them this year. This will be the 18th game that is played, so that is not a lot of wins that you want under your belt. Granted, all those wins are way more recently than you would expect. And Hazer, you also get this Osiris, which we just saw have just lights out performance. It feels like this is going to be a good front line, at least theoretically, for the Scarabs.
Yeah, Solar Troll put on a show with that Osiris in the last game. I mean, he deserved a pentakill. He came over to that fight prior to getting a quadra kill. He was 4 levels ahead.
Yeah.
He was absolutely crushing it. So not surprised to see him go back to that one. Bobby Moja, always a concern. Has he been putting in the reps? We'll see.
Yeah, that's the true key, right? They've had 3 weeks since the last time we got to see him. Granted, maybe taking a week off for holidays, but then 2 weeks of just nothing but grinding to try and figure things out from there. Well, we'll have to see if the Scarabs can stand up to what we've seen out of it. The top-tier emojis that we have seen inbound has matched in those wins. That's just whether or not we get that Fafnir and Amuz and Cobb locked in for the Dragons. This feels, Taco, like a very good pickup for them.
Could be a ton of pressure from the duo side if that's going to be an Amuz and Cobb intended for Panicat. There is some possibility that it could wind up in the mid lane, although with that Erlong being locked in, Erlong, Yamoja, Osiris, pretty threatening trio to run at an Amuz and Cobb in the mid lane. So would definitely probably prefer to see that AMC in the likes of Panicat's hands. And with the Fafnir being on board, there's also a really strong possibility that Jade Dragons could actually opt for a double hunter style of play here.
That's something, yeah, that we saw a lot actually out of the Oni Warriors during the placements. They were playing that a ton against the Scarabs. And it got to the point where, if I remember correctly, Scarabs just had to start banning Fafnir to stop it from happening. The Amuz and Cobb was very, very popular in mid. They do take a shot towards Pandacat, so kind of assuming that might end up going towards Hurrywin because they get rid of the Heimdall. Now they get rid of the Morrigan, which is going to be something a little more standard fare for Hurry. The Freya on the other side, so a shot immediately at Stuart alongside the Tiamat. And this is where things open up. I mean, you know, we've seen a lot out of Baronic, but it feels like a little bit of that is going to get stifled. But Charybdis is something that has been big for them. And right now, Hazer, it's still open.
Yeah, I would like to see the Charybdis. I think definitely a strong pick, especially in Baronic's hands. I think he's probably the best Charybdis we've seen in the league. I wonder if we're going to see the Dragons here go towards one of these double hunter, 4 physical, single Fafnir comps that we've seen kind of come into vogue in the last event. It does look like it's primed for that, but Medusa is the pick. Is that a mid lane Medusa? Is that a hunter Medusa? I'm not sure.
And that's the fun of it, right? Locked in exactly where it is. It leaves it very ambiguous because of what we've seen. Although recently, Taco, Medusa had skyrocketed, and we actually expected to see her a lot more during placements than we did because they finally moved that anti-heal onto something where you can apply it a lot easier. Your lacerate goes through the minions and damages them. It feels like she has a place in the meta, but hasn't really become that top tier that we expected.
Medusa's primary issue will always be the fact that in the laning phase, she feels phenomenal. It is very difficult to try and actually bully or outpressure the Medusa because she has super consistent clear. She has a lot of aggro that she can bring to the table as well, levels 1 through 5. And seeing this Neath now for the Jade Dragons, they're looking to still try and play around their control. Definitely some consistent beads burn application. That's going to make things a little bit easier there for Sam on that Bastet to look for an ideal isolation pick. But going back to that Medusa discussion, it's largely just the fact that her clear is fantastic. But in a team fight, if you get 2 people even to just box in that Medusa. She's got nowhere left to run. So positioning will certainly be key here, especially if that's Stuart on the Medusa.
Well, right now they're hovering a Morgan Le Fay, a very interesting pickup. When we saw Morgan's release almost immediately for the next few weeks, Hazer, like locked in, loved to be seen, loved to be played. Hasn't seen a whole ton since then. Locked in for the first time here at SWC.
Here in this best of 5.
Well,
Sanford Soccer.
if we're going to go on that discussion, Dave, it's actually that each game from here on out is more important than the last.
Right,
because
you've already been tweeted out about this, Agro. I don't want to.
I'm just setting the record straight, man. I'm just
making
making sure we're all on the same page, okay? Game 2 more important than game 1, but that's because every game is more important than the one that just happened.
Correct, absolutely. From there on out. Sanford Soccer on the Bastet here. Baronic takes a little bit of damage, but that's his clone. Honestly, I was looking at you and I looked back and I thought he was on the verge of death, and so that's on me. SOT gets jumped on by FineOK here. But Agro, I want to look at the jungle matchup here yet again, because Scream, for the first time this set, not going to get to play the Bastet.
Right.
Sanford Soccer is going to get to play the Bastet here in Game 3.
Yeah, I mean, Scream, I was talking to him briefly in the break room in between games, and he said, "You think I'm getting it 3 times in a row?" And I said,
"Nope.
I don't know if I'd give it to you 3 times in a row, that's for sure."
Early game, Erlong Shen as Sanford Soccer is pinned in place. He will jump out. I'm not getting tricked twice. That's just the clone from Baronic. Honestly, when I saw it the first time, I was like, why is that health bar so big? One auto attack from dying. It's so hard not to look at you, and I'm standing next to you, though, and so that's my fault. But early pressure from Scream finds its way into the mid lane. Everyone, though, able to hold on to their beads.
No beads there for Sanford Soccer. He goes Blink, which surprises me, but maybe feels like he needs that as an initiation tool, lets him save Pounce, which is a primary damage source for Bastet. For that, its primary damage, instead of using it to get in range or anything along those lines. A little surprised, I gotta say, to see this Morgan Le Fay here for Baronic.
Yeah.
I'm just kind of a Morgan Le Fay hater right now. I just don't think that she does quite enough damage. I don't think that her early wave clear is very good. And then the payoff late just isn't quite enough.
I want to have a conversation about Morgan Le Fay.
Okay.
Because think about when it was Morgan Le Fay had just come out.
Yeah.
It was Morgan and Tiamat that were picked like every single game.
Yeah.
It felt like. Did we ever see the payoff of Morgan Le Fay from that high presence of pick
Not really.
rate? I mean, I think there was a pretty quick fall off where teams realized Morgan Le Fay just wasn't going to be it. Hurrywin still has beads, uses the beads, but Scream is on the chase. Backflip out. There's the pin.
Nice
there's the root. Hurrywin riptided back in by inbound stun.
Oh, no!
But Hurrywin makes it out anyway. First blood fumbled. The Solar Scarabs made a play, but just come up short of the goal line. The Jade Dragons mid laner stays alive. Red buff will get invaded, will get dropped by the Solar Scarabs. Very well could have been a first blood.
Yeah, I think it really should have been, but ends up not being the case.
Could be
Mike,
still.
Yeah, it should be okay, but he's still going to take a good amount of damage. And again, the Jade Dragons are handshaking the left side buffs for the right side buffs, but there's 2 buffs on the left, Dave. That's why we see dual pressure be so much more important. Yeah, it's just math. It's just worth more.
Game number 1. Wonder if there's a world where Scream on this Erlong Shen, inbound, even SOT as this game goes on, if they're in a world where they can really punish this immobile AMC.
Yeah, I think that's got to be the game plan. But AMC is really good at returning fire and making it difficult to just kill him in the 1v1 or the 2v1. He's going to try and take one of you with him the vast majority of the time. Very Zeus or Jean Kui-like in that way. And Panda Cat has been so good on this god during his career. He's very comfortable knowing that there's going to be a lot of pressure on him.
Sanford Soccer heads back to the right side of the map again. Looks like a juggling of blue buff for purple buff on the other. Panda Cat and Mike just told to deal with it, while Sanford Soccer and FineOK put their pressure on right.
But that one is much better for the Jade
Dragons.
style of comp, and it's already a frenzy for Mike, which I love. I talked a little bit before Worlds with Hazer actually about meditation and how everyone feels like it's super good and super overpowered and all this kind of stuff, and it's certainly the best relic you can have in the duo lane, but it does fall off.
Scream into mid, Hurrywin on the beads. Well timed, Riptide no good either, and walks on out of the River's Rebuke. Over on all the CC onto Hurrywin transformation out of Polar Bear Mike. This is a 4 versus 3. Taunts back through
Got
onto
Scream.
Mike. And there's a stun as well, but Hurrywin, he's got the burst damage. It's a double kill for the Neath. 1 returned by the Solar Scarab. Some fireworks in mid will give 2 kills to the Jade Dragons mid.
Beautiful bait there from the Jade Dragons. Hurrywin uses his relics well that time, able to space it out, inbound, just off the mark. But even if he lands that River's Rebuke, I don't know that there was enough follow-up in order to kill him. I will say Baronic did a ton of work in that team fight. His damage over the wall in order to kill Panda Cat is massive because the Scarabs needed something, because it did not look like that team fight was going to go well for them at all, because Hurry's bait was good, Mike is in the perfect position, Sam gets his ultimate off on a priority target, pulls in Scream, that's a guaranteed kill because he's still not level 12. Good response there from the Jade Dragons, and even though it's a 2-for-1, it feels like a little bit more than that, just because they didn't get really anything positive last game.
Right, and what's worse is it's not like SOT is faring much better on the right side of the map. Both solo laners have been left alone. Sam for Soccer, he's got eyes for Stewart, who does not have his ultimate. Stu has Aegis. Sam for Soccer left running for the hills. Stewart uses the beads, and that's a World Weaver from mid. Nearly grabs a kill onto the Medusa.
And if Sam was just patient enough with that pounce, if he had just not pounced onto the Aegis, Stewart's dead in that position. That damage, you know, I'm thinking there's no way Sam has a 100-0 potential without his ultimate at this point in the game, and he doesn't. But Sam recognizes that I don't need 100-0 potential. I need like 77-0 potential.
The tier 1 tower over there on right. And FineOK on a pick like this Nike can feel very oppressive.
But remember what happened last game where Solar Troll gets this 2-level lead and then immediately Scream comes over and ganks FineOK, sets him behind. And then immediately after that, Solar Troll comes in and helps on rotation.
Baronic jumped on but has ultimate, has beads, and has Aegis. Morgan Le Fay, nothing if not safe. The ability to peel yourself out, very important to look at. So Hurrywind has used his ult again. Baronic has done so as well. But the actives remain in an equal state. Inbound Riptide's away. He is locked into the River's Rebuke with 4, and there is just way too much
Big Petrify
from the Jade Dragons. But Hurrywind takes the damage, backflips away, and he will live with single-digit HP.
Man, so close. And PBM's already in Dragon form, still has that Frenzy ready to go, but Hurry can't stick around.
Coerce spreads out. Frenzy spreads out. You are committing onto the objective at this point if you're the Jade Dragons, but the Solar Scarabs are here.
Hurry's still
and
here.
SOT is as well. Sam for Soccer in the tether, and he has to back away. It's a big fight from the Solar Scarabs. The Jade Dragons decimated. Scarabs find 3 kills. Sam goes back in, but he will leave empty-handed.
What just happened? What just happened to the Jade Dragons? They get the pick on the inbound, and all of a sudden they're feeling like they can waltz around and do whatever they want. But this is not the Solar Scarabs team that just got crushed in game 1. This is a Scarabs team with a little bit more confidence and a little bit more readiness in order to take these fights. I mean, Hurwin sticks around at 1 HP, and Solar Troll just tosses a flail over the wall and gets the easiest kill of his life, and the rest of the Dragons just this overcommit onto the Fury. I hated that call. I hated that call more than I hate ketchup and mayonnaise, and that's a lot, Dave. I hate
Together?
That. Yes, they're terrible.
Or independently,
separately,
whatever.
both,
Doesn't
whatever.
matter. You hate it all.
What was that?
I don't know. Jade Dragons, now their chance is to steal away the Gold Furies. The Solar Scarabs have put themselves on it. Inbound takes the World Weaver. This Fury will not die. Quietly, Panda Cat takes down Inbound, but the Scarabs get the Fury.
Bye, Sam.
It's Sam for Soccer right back into the fray. Baronic on a killing spree. Morgan Le Fay flexing those muscles just a bit, and another 3 down for the Jade Dragons. And hey, we got Inbound again, but what else?
Who cares? They got the Fury. They got 3 for 0 again. I mean, now Mike has just died over and over, you know, back to back over again. Panda Cat dies with Relics up that time. I want to take a look back and see what happened the initial time, because this call is just completely psycho in my mind. This pick is great. I mean, you know, Inbound doesn't have beads. He went meditation.
Right.
Guarantee the stun. CC chain is perfect. Lock him in. Great. This Petrify was really good from Stewart, but it really only hit Hurry, and he lives. Great. Why are we here? You know, what possesses
Baronic is untouched,
them to do it? I mean, yeah,
Big
Baronic and Stewart are untouched. Scream just has a perfect initiation, and that goes great. And then they decide to fight again.
World Weaver intended for Scream, taken by Baronic. FineOK has already used the Sentinel of Zeus. It doesn't have the shield to show for it. Tanky enough to live throughout most of the damage, but the River's Rebuke keeps Mike at bay, and FineOK has been picked. The Solar Scarabs as 4 on the Pyromancer, but Pyromancer not taken down. Inbound pulled back in to Sam for Soccer and Hurry when they will at least get a kill, but it's onto the Emoja yet again. The Solar Scarabs get the Pyromancer as well. We have seen Inbound for what? Over and over and over again.
It's just another objective for the Solar Scarabs, another 2 for 1 for Inbound's life. He's 0-4, and he's still ahead of Mike because Mike's dying every time too.
Sam for Soccer, you feel desperation at this point to make a play happen. He is in mid with Baronic, who is 5-0-3 on
He's
the Morgan Le Fay. Chronos Pendant, Divine Ruin, Soul Reaver.
In game one, he was consistently ahead of Heroin.
Yep.
He's played really, really lights out in his first SPL World Championship experience. I mean, he's won a World Championship on Xbox, but to have this type of performance in a big pressure situation here on the PC side of things is impressive.
Yeah, Baronic has continually stepped up to the plate. How many times have we talked about the level gap in mid? And had it be Baronic that we're talking about? 3 games in a row now, it feels like. And he is in a position to carry out the rest of this game. Got one of the best tier 2 items in the game. Some of the percent pen online working towards the Ob Shard. Solar Scarabs, sub 20 minutes are the team. If you told me with these 2 compositions, the Scarabs would be the ones pulling an early Fire Giant, I would have called you crazy. But the Jade Dragons are here to call them on it. The gold lead is big. Maybe not that big.
No, this is a bit spooky. They've got great sustain, though, from this Umoja, so they can afford to take a few risks in this position, but you know, you're in such a commanding lead, 4,000 at 19 minutes. You don't need to throw it away by going for a Fire Giant you don't need. Look at the tier 1s up in mid and in solo lane. That's free gold. You can get further ahead without taking a big risk.
We're rolling the dice. We're flipping the coin on the Fire Giant. It is SOT with the engage onto Hurrywind in the back. Good damage out from Panda Cat, though, as well. World Weaver has already been used. Final K left alone with all of the Solar Scarabs. This Sentinel of Zeus has got to be big, but it is not big enough. The River's Rebuke, fantastic. 5 members grouped up, though, for the Solar Scarabs, and that means the damage can cleave. And the Jade Dragons, they'll find a re-engage.
Petrify was excellent. Stewart going in. Panda Cat nowhere to go, and it's a clean sweep for the Solar Scarabs. Unstoppable is right. No one is shutting them down this game. 4 for nothing for the Chaos side.
Sanford Soccer has got a watch in the wings as his team dies around him. This Fire Giant suddenly much, much easier for the Solar Scarabs. They are on the precipice of going up 2-1 in this best of 5, knocking out the Jade Dragons with one more win if you're able to close this one out. Your world gets a whole lot easier after you take down this Fire.
And we talked about the identity of the Dragons draft, that they want to be the ones on the objectives, that they want to be the ones trying to threaten burning these objectives, because there's no executioner for them. They're not stripping away those percent pens. All these maces, I just don't think can work up against this build.
I'm not sure Sot died at all in Game 2. Clearly has not died here in Game 3. It has been an unstoppable performance from SOT in a team where a lot of the conversation is centered around Scream, for good reason. The bring back of this team over the course of the year. The players that are stepping up alongside Scream, who's played very well here today as well. SOT, massive performance. Baronic, the man who has grown into the mid lane something fierce. 7-0-4 in game number 3 against the Jade Dragons, the underdogs, if you can even call them that any further. Solar Scarabs, a few Phoenixes away and 1 Titan from going up 2-1 in this best of 5 set. And the answer has to be, at what point does Hurrywind finally get to a World Weaver that's going to start deleting these health bars? I'm not sure. It looks like a Titan's Bane a bit down the stretch here. You're going to have to finish off that Hidden Blade to get some good damage in onto Baronic. You can't lose Final K in the meantime. That's for sure. He is in the River's Rebuke, and all 5 members of the Solar Scarabs will call him on it. Sentinel of Zeus buys him some time. Taunt used as well.
Sam got instant
Baronic grabs a kill onto Sam for Soccer. It is 8-0-5 in the mid lane. You are without your solo. You are without your jungler for 45 seconds. The Solar Scarabs smell blood. They smell a 2-1 lead here in this best of 5 set. SOT blocking out the damage from the rest of the Jade Dragons as the Titan is leashed back into the mid lane. Phoenix Hurrywind desperately finding damage onto the front line of the Solar Scarabs, as well as Panda Cat over on the left. The Titan is going down slowly, but the Jade Dragons simply don't have enough. The Solar Scarabs go up 2-1.
Unbelievable. The Solar Scarabs have just come out and hit the Jade Dragons with a 1-2 punch that basically has them on the ropes, man. I mean,
the Dragons are providing for them that it just feels like is opening up their opportunities even more.
But it's just as Hazer was mentioning, it seems, you would think that the Solar Scarabs have taken the Jade Dragons hostage or something to playing on that solo side of the map, because in game 1, we saw absolute control and domination. All the Jade Dragons did was play duo side map pressure. So you think, okay, well, stray away from that a little bit in game 2, understandable, see where you can dabble, dip your toes in the water of that solo side, but they did, and it was a catastrophe. And then game 3, they go right back to running it down into their own deaths, essentially, and it just seemed as though there were so many different circumstances. I think the most notable one, though, by far being around that 19.5 minutes, 20-minute mark. Not sure if it's going to hit the replay section or not, but solo or troll, In all seriousness, I think he overextended a bit with a nice, or with the Lord of the Afterlife, and had to offer in the team fights just to bail your mid laner out. And it just seems so disjointed from the Jade Dragons, and I think a lot of it is just stemming from the fact that FineOK insists on trying to be this solo lane reckoning force like what we're seeing out of Solo or Troll for the Scarabs, and it's just not working. It is not as fluid. There is nowhere near as much synergy as what we're seeing from the Scarabs.
And it's definitely been a struggle for them, and you know you have to be feeling good for this. He'll get to figure out who does the better Paul impression, him or Paul himself, because that's what you get. Winning this one, you move forward semifinals to go up against the Titans. The Dragons still first pick, and they're not going to be changing up too much as of yet. This Odin has been banned by them every single game, and it's been the Odin Izanami. They're going to stick to their guns right there. Hell banned out by the Scarabs. And they tend to be sticking to the exact same top two as well, Taco. It's this Hell Mercury. They just do not want to deal with it.
But if there's anything, it's the Jade Dragons who have to make the shift at this point, and it's the Osiris, if anything, that has to be priority number one for the Jade Dragons to try and force SOT off of. Yamoja, I think, just coming out as a generic staple ban, because even if Inbound doesn't have the greatest track record with Yamoja, she's still a Yamoja, and that ultimate is still incredibly problematic throughout team fights. But it's going to be the Bastet run back here in that first pick position, which means the Solar Scarabs, they don't have to stray away from this Osiris, and why not just keep feeding SOT a pick that has worked out beautifully for him 2 rounds in a row.
Now, last time it was the Osiris Yamoja. With Yamoja gone, it feels like, hey, let's go ahead and grab the other top picks that we picked up. Olarun already locked in for the Scarabs, and they're going to match it. I thought they were about to lock it in. I was like really hyped that was going to lead in perfectly for them. No, they're going to take a little bit more time. Either way, they get the Olarun, which looked really good a couple of games ago, was banned out for them last time. It's actually the Yamus and Cobb here. And Hazer, that's a powerful pick.
Yeah, they've not been allowed this throughout, and I feel like this is exactly the thing I feared the Solar Scarabs would get against the Dragons. Now they're getting it in a game which could decide the set. Olarun, AMC, they ran this a little bit in the play-ins, and they just were absolutely dominant. I think it's Baronic's best god right now. I think it's Stuart's best god right now. Do the Jade Dragons even want to take away this Osiris? Does FineOK want it? I hope so, because otherwise they're giving away everything. But they have made an adjustment here, and we've got both Bastet and Erlang Shen locked in for the Jade Dragons. So does that mean that this Bastet is going over to solo or over to support, maybe? I don't know.
Yeah, it's been a while. I mean, Taco, trying to think about it, I think the last person I saw play Erlang solo was Maddox, I think, for the Bolts, like earlier this year. It doesn't happen often. We can speculate on that all day, but the Zeus finally gets locked in. It's been a lot of Zhang Kui. We've seen the versatility from Hurry, but this has so far got a 100% win rate for this team.
Hard to fight into that Zeus burst damage more than anything else, and it could provide a lot of issues for that Amuzinka, specifically in the mid lane, because normally you'd expect AMC to have all the zoning potential out there, but when it comes to Zeus, having that chain lightning feature makes it a little bit more problematic for that jungle mid lane pairing to be as, I guess, aggressive. You've definitely got to be a little bit more mindful there, especially given the fact that if this is an Erlang jungle and a Bastet flex pick into supporter solo side, well, I think that it's fair to say that there is a very strong CC burn between the Bastet ultimate and the Erlang knockup, as well as the Erlang taunt.
Well, the Scarabs seem to think that it's more likely a solo pickup for them, because they do ban out Kepri and Ganesh taken away. On the other side, the Naja does show up on the screen, but it's finally just banned out here alongside the Gilgamesh. Two things the Dragons don't want to deal with. But I mean, Osiris, Olarun, I'm looking at the Amus and Cobb. Hazer, first off, I'm immediately double Hunter thinking of Fafnir, but I feel like they've just got a nice wide open field.
Yeah, it's looking great. They're hovering the Humbats here. What I was thinking was Daji might be about to come through. 3 gods on the other side who are vulnerable to that Paolo. Bastet does have a little bit of CC immunity on that ult, unless I'm mistaken, but Bat's ult definitely going to be powerful here in knocking down this Zeus and knocking down this Erlang, and something that Scream did very, very, very well in the play-ins when his Neja was not available.
Something that we're worried about. You mentioned it, but Hunbat's hovered, not locked in. It is the Cirquette that gets locked in its place. Taco, How do you feel about this? I mean, Dashi was mentioned, Hunbats was hovered and mentioned. How does the Circuit match end?
Well, we saw Circuit in Game 2 for support there for
True.
inbound, and there were definitely some, heavy question marks around it because it didn't look like it was the most ideal situation to be taking a Circuit in, but I think inbound was incredibly effective in the sense that his sole purpose was just to burn Hurrywin's beads, and I'm kind of anticipating a lot more of that with this Circuit into Zeus, because Circuit, if she's building hybrid or even just building outright tanky, Zeus isn't going to be able to kill her immediately, and if he expends his purification beads just to escape that Circuit ultimate, well, now he's got Lord of the Afterlife on him. Now he's got Amus and Ka be able to close the gaps, I think, with some of that range out of the Hornets and the Stinger, and all around, well, it's always going to be a threat against the Zeus, I feel.
That's something that they're going to need to be worried about. Dragons looking for their bottom 2 alongside the Erlong, Bastet, Zeus that they've picked up. And realistically, the Scarabs are up in the air. Hazer, how do you feel about this Circuit? Specifically, I guess, matching alongside with what I would guess is this Amus and Coven mid.
So I think it's strong. I mean, I think Circuit doesn't have really great setup for a lot of abilities that you would come out of a mage most of the time, because that ult control, you need to communicate to your team really clearly where you're throwing them. One thing she does do really well though is she's safe, she's slippery, she's hard to lock down, and with this comp on the other side, the Erlang, Sheng, the Zeus, they have incredible CC for any frontliner that gets caught, and we see Scotty and Terra hovered out here. I would love a Terra pick, actually.
Yeah, so Terra is something that we could talk about, easy realm of possibility. Unless Barracuda's playing, Scotty just seems absolutely outrageous to think about. But it's hovered. Taco, we do get the Terra. And actually was like an incredibly popular pick that I feel like just isn't getting the light as much as she deserves.
If Scotty is locked in, like she has just been locked in, then the Jade Dragons, I will lose my mind if they continue trying to play through the solo side of the map, because right now their composition is dependent on their execution around duo side buff invade pressure, which is something Scotty can definitely do against Olaran and Amus and Ka, but Hazer, you're asking for the Daji, and it seems as though the Scarabs are willing to deliver.
Yeah, I said it was a good Daji game before, and then Terra and Scotty get locked in as well. My goodness, this is one of the best Daji games I have ever seen.
I think there are a lot of things to love about this matchup in lane. Once Panda leaves lane, it's like he's the big fish in the small pond, and he's feeling really good,
right.
And everything's working really well. And then he goes out into the ocean, and it's nothing but like sharks
right.
just waiting for him, and they're hungry. I don't know, man. I really feel like the Scarabs came away with such a strong draft. I think this Daji pick was absolutely phenomenal. Not just for the lack of CC immunity on 4 out of 5 members of the Jade Dragons, though that doesn't hurt, but it's Zeus's worst matchup by a mile. Because
we haven't talked about Zeus, right?
every assassin that kills Zeus, which is all of them, also dies to Zeus, because Zeus just has the damage. And he can do it, drops the Lightning Storm, he'll do it even when he's dead. Against Daji, she goes up, and you can't do that.
What about early in the game? How does that feel for Hurry when he has jumped on, he has used the beads, but Sat's here as well! Hello, first blood for the Solar Scarabs! Sanford Soccer has to weasel away from the fray, and they make Hurrywin pay right off the bat. Beads gone, first blood to the Scarabs.
Cheese is good with this time of year, and it's cheesy in this game. Hurrywin ends up losing his life. I mean, Solar Troll's going to pay for it by losing a lot of farm on this right-hand side, but I don't think FinoK can ever kill him on this rotation back. Maybe he can.
Uh-oh, there's a 3 versus 2 on the left side of the map as well. Odd-numbered fights everywhere for the Jade Dragons. You've now dropped a kill on the left side of the map as well. You need to get this kill, and you cannot die for it if you're FinoK. Are his eyes too big? No, they're not. FinoK knocks down Sot, and signs of life from the Jade Dragons on the right side of the map. Sanford Soccer, he's going to try to punch back here. He's got the pin onto Baronic. FinoK's got the root as well, and we are tied in Game 4.
What is going on, man? I mean, pedal to the metal early on in this game. Just 2 for 2 in 2 minutes across the board. And it ends up being pretty favorable, I think, overall for the Jade Dragons. Because look at all the farm that Sanford Soccer has gotten, although this can't happen. Scream might be dead!
Scream! Detonate! No! He gets countered! All inbound jumps on him, no chance to detonate. Hurry went down for the second time this game. Sanford Soccer's got a kill on the side. Are you kidding me? It's anarchy in Atlanta as the Jade Dragons and the Scarabs go 3 for 3 in 2.5 minutes.
What is going on? And Scream and inbound still just moving around the jungle. 2-man around the jungle to try and get these buffs. Mike doesn't end up getting the purple, but at least won't die for it. in this instance. I mean, Hurry, I think, may have been able to kill Scream, the damage mitigation during the 2. I think only whenever it's hitting you in the back. So I think that Scream may have died to that detonate damage, but then that Cobra's Kiss from inbound was so good, and that's what ends up getting that kill. And it's worth noting that Hurry ends up wasting his beads level 1 because there's no CC coming from Scream. He just kind of beads is in reaction to the blink sound, and that might have gotten him killed.
Well, look, SOT's been an issue in games 1, 2, and 3. So let's put an end to it if we're the Jade Dragons. That's what they're thinking at least. That's simple. Without the ultimate online, Lord of the Afterlife not there for another couple of minutes. Sam for Soccer, Fine OK, combine for another kill on the right side of the map. So Sam starts off. I mean, you got to take some stock here at some point. Panda Cat uses his beads, sends some damage inbound's way. As Mike had left the lane for a moment. You got to take some stock here. All right, so Sam for Soccer's got a couple kills. Scream's got a couple kills. Fine OK and SOT kind of flip-flopped as far as KDA goes. A little lead for Baronic over there in the mid lane. Really aggro, it feels like, in the first 4 minutes. It's both junglers that are now at a big power play position as far as their kills go. Both 2-0.
Did not do enough with that lead in order to justify the amount of resources put into getting it for him. Has to be able to do it now on the Bastet.
We talked about Bastet solo.
Yeah, I mean, the tools have got to be there more so for Bastet solo than the Nike solo.
Hurrywind's been jumped on a couple of times so far this game. Red buff has been an afterthought. That's a taunt in from Sam for Soccer. Palau's out. They connect onto Hurrywind and Sam. PBM is the one who gets pulled in. Lightning Storm out. That delays the engage from the Solar Scarabs. Gives the Dragons a bit of breathing room as they will back away. But you already see the potency of that engage from Scream. Is Panda Cat going to get dove here? He's got low health, but Hurrywind, Scream realize the rest of the Jade Dragons are rallying around this purple.
Yeah, and Stewart had already used the ultimate, but ends up getting the ultimate from Panda Cat, pokes him nice and low. So this idea that we're going to just put pressure on this left-hand side has not come to pass. This draft cannot allow Panda Cat to come out of this laning phase at a deficit.
Dead build is only but a good thing.
Exactly. This is the right type of build. And again, Zeus is not supposed to be living through team fights, but he's got to be able to get his damage off on the right targets. Right. And that's the thing about Daji is that she kills him and doesn't take that damage at the exact same time.
Man, there's just not been a free red buff for Hurrywind. Hurrywind's maybe got the first one of the game. The Scarabs have put all their pressure, all their eggs in that basket as this game has gone on. Feels like Breastplate of Valor could be a great option for Hurrywind if Daji and Baronic are going to be sending a lot of damage his way. Inbound as well. Synergize as well with that Book of Thoth start. Purple buff as well has been taken away by the Scarabs a whole lot. Sam for Soccer had no chance as the Scarabs send 3 to the purple buff. Fine OK. We've seen this time and time again. Solo kill for Fino on right, and that'll pull back the score just a bit for the Dragons. Man,
Fino K feels like the guy who's just trying to do it all right now because every time you're like, oh boy, this game just might be over. The set might be over. That the Dragons are just hosed. It's Fino K hits Slain Solo Retrol, and you're like, maybe. Maybe we can.
The way my brain keeps working.
Yeah, maybe that can work. But just a great trap laid, great ward coverage deep in the enemy jungle there, and makes it an easy trap laid for Sam for Soccer.
Polar Bear Mike taunted in. Nice triple root from PBM. And that is everything expended from the Solar Scarabs. No chance back in. Stewart, you're going to be soloed in a 1v3. He says no. He'll back away. Panda Cat playing on thin margins there. You overstep an ounce, and suddenly the Solar Scarabs are able to jump on you and you at least get your beads burnt. But like the look from Panda Cat, but aggro.
He's down 2 levels.
He's down 2 levels.
He's just going to, I mean, maybe Panda Cat proves me wrong and he comes to team fights and he slams, but I think he's going to be getting slammed the vast majority of the time in these team fights. So if you're not eating during the laning phase, you're going to find yourself pretty hungry at the end of the day as this Scotty. And, with Hurry behind as much as he is now as well because of these repeated red buff invades, yeah, that's only one member of the Solar Scarabs who's significantly behind. Really 2, because Scream has mortgaged his farm for the rest of the team.
Fine OK uses his leap in onto Sot. Now we are tower diving Scream up into the Palaus. Fine OK has survived for the time being. Beads out. Palau out. SOT nearly goes down, but there's no rotation in. But yes, there is. Sam for Soccer's here. He's got the pin. This one hand-delivered by Fine OK himself, and Sot will live to fight another day.
Exactly what the Jade Dragons need. And, I kind of advocated that Panda can't come out of this lane behind, and I think it might be too late for that conversation already. I think that he is just going to leave this laning phase behind, and now you've got one hope. The shining hope in the darkness is the right side of the map. All 5 kills are split between Sam and Fine. You know, they're 5-1-3 combined.
Factor by the time the game closes out.
Exactly. You have to really leverage that snowball during the earlier stages of the game. And Sam, I like him rushing Magi's in this position. It's going to be so good up against this Cirquette and up against the Dodgy in particular. That's where you're going to need it.
Hurrywind in, or out rather, as inbound is in. Red buff invaded and dropped by the Jade Dragons. It's only PBM who's here with a chance to steal away. Gets the root onto Stewart. Red buff still not secured by either team. Ends up getting taken down on the other end by the Solar Scarabs. Palau through. Sanford Soccer alone in the mid lane. Pin is on the other end, and there's just way too much in mid. Sam left to his own devices, and his own devices will fail.
Yeah, 3 ultimates used,
my God,
but they get him. Yeah, Hurry nearly dies to inbound and is still under some threat in this position.
Inbound jumps through,
Nice
stun
stun.
from PBM and detonate. And inbound hands one back to the Jade Dragons mid laner. Could not have come a moment too soon. Hurrywind needed some air, and it has been hand delivered by Mike.
Exactly what the doctor ordered there, and a big play by Mike. Hurry gets a little bit of farm, but he still misses so much. I mean, yeah, inbound dies, but I don't even hate that death there from Bobby because he zoned Hurry from like 2 mid waves and a red buff, following on the mid laner and preventing him from farming.
This has been absolutely relentless from both of these teams. Bede's gone from Veronic now in the mid lane as Polar Bear Mike on the Terra
He's going off.
has continued to be an onslaught. 0-0-1 does not do him justice. Pyromancer looked at by the Jade Dragons and taken away by SOT. This man will not be denied. Maybe a Penta in game number 2, but not the Pyromancer here in game 4. The Jade Dragons needed it, and SOT wags his finger.
Yeah, Hurry's just got to secure that with detonate. They've got to keep it out of damage range until his detonate's up. If it was down, I don't think it was. I think that he just thought he wasn't going to need to use it, but he did. He needed it for sure.
This is just brutal. Hurrywind can't even walk by his own red buff without inbound jumping on him. He at least has Book of the Dead now. Hasn't fully stacked up his Book of Thoth. That'll be here shortly. Survivability at least takes a little spike now for Hurrywind, where it feels like the first 13 minutes have just been oppressive. He has not had a get-out-of-jail card at any point in any of these dives. Now with the way that this build looks, there is that extra minute of survivability to get that damage off, and he'll need to use it here. Mike, with his last bit of mana, sends out his ultimate inbound down to Sanford Soccer, and the rest of the Solar Scarabs want nothing else to do with this fight.
And good ultimate coming from Panda Cat, gonna root down Solar Troll. Final K's ultimate splits the uprights. Needed that one in order to pull back Solar Troll, but still, the Jade Dragons finally get Hurry a red buff, and that death I don't like from inbound. You know, the last one, I think excusable. That one, he's just too split up from the rest of the team. Mike does a really good job of just using his body as a shield.
Gold in the lead. All this farm just being taken away. I've not seen one free red buff given to Hurrywind. It's all been a fight. Scrapping for every ounce of farm on the map. The Gold Fury isn't going to be a scrap, though. Polar Bear Mike is around the Fury and does not have a chance to take it away, and so 2,000 gold becomes about 3,000 gold for the Solar Scarabs as the onslaught continues.
In Smite, they don't give you a moment to breathe. They consistently force you to be on time, have vision, have relics, have ultimates, have buttons, and you better not miss, because otherwise we're going to punish you for it. And the Solar Scarabs, they're looking like a great team right
now. They're looking like a fantastic team. The growth cannot be understated. Sanford Soccer and Fino K have dragged the Jade Dragons kicking and screaming back into a game where everything else has been going wrong. Unfortunately, this time, another ultimate missing from Fino K. And so Hurrywind has gone full damage. So far in his build, are you surprised at all, Aggro? We have not seen Breastplate of Valor prioritized for this Zeus.
Yeah, a little bit, but you know, I think that he just knows he needs more damage.
Inbound is taunted through, knocked up, and deleted. Fino K on a killing spree. Add another to the Bastet highlight reel in Game 4. And the Jade Dragons will pick the Scarab support once more, but there's no Fury on this side of the map to take. Red buff has already been dealt with. Purple buff gone as well. It is a pick. And seemingly nothing else for the Dragons.
I mean, that's huge, though. And it's inbound again in the wrong spot, just not the whole team around him. And yeah, they use our long ult on them. They commit something, but at the end of the day, it's not that much. And look at how much map pressure and how much wind it's pulled out of the sails of the Scarabs. That's what I was talking about, why I was so impressed by that Gold Fury pull from the Scarabs, because historically, when Bobby has gotten picked, which has happened a lot, they lose a lot of that momentum. But that time they did not. They went straight to the objective. But this time there's no objective to immediately go to force something. I like them grouping up around this Pyromancer. You know, they're clearly not just letting the Jade Dragons continue to come back in this game for free.
Veronica's hit a big power spike here. He has got Titan's Bane, and Polar Bear Mike feels the brunt of the damage. Stewart dropped down Sanctified Field. Powwow used by Scream as well. That'll secure the Pyromancer. Those ultimates are big, though. Is that enough to give the Jade Dragons an opening? And the Scarabs say no. They'll answer that question for us.
Because there's nothing for the Jade Dragons to really do. I mean, maybe they can group up and get tier 1 mid, which I would like at this point. I mean, it's against an AMC, so that matters quite a bit.
And
But
has already left that lane a bit behind, if you consider that laning phase over. So if you're fighting on the left side of the map, you're far from comfortable now if you're the Jade Dragons. Stewart considerably ahead in gold on everyone else here in this matchup. The Solar Scarab start up the Primal Fury. It's going to be a steal attempt from the Jade Dragons up into the Powwow. Goes Scream. Beads used by Sanford Soccer. Fury gets reset as the rest of the Jade Dragons group up around the objective. These solo laners rotating in from mid. Shield goes down. Sanford Soccer throws out the taunt. Inbound has been left alone in the back. The Lightning Storm is huge from Hurrywin to buy space on the other side of this fight, and the Jade Dragons have showed up. Are they going to start the Fury?
I think they are. Final K trying to zone out Solar Patrol, but Scream's still healthy.
Scream onto Hurrywin in the back.
Oh,
Sanctified
huge.
Field. Oh, that's a big one. Yeah, baby. Stewart walks forward, grabs the killing spree. Baronic adds another. Final K, the saving grace for the Jade Dragons on a warpath here, will not get the next kill onto Stewart. SOT has 2 tethers out. That'll find a couple of stunts here. Panda Cat locked down in place and taken away by Stewart is the double kill. Jade Dragons, they show up. They pay for it with 3.
And they lose the Primal Fury on top of it. That Sanctified Field from Stewart was, mwah, it was a chef's kiss right there on the Primal Fury. Just could not ask for a better one and do the job. Just really, really impressive.
I mean,
and
you
want
dream about this.
Right on time. The second it's up, my man is slamming 4, and he's slamming the Dragons as well.
You dream about a Sanctified Field like that. You lock 3 in place. Your mid laner helps you out, grab the only person who's a threat to you on the other side of that fight. For a moment, looked like fine, okay. Might be able to turn that fight around, but the Solar Scarabs, despite some early trade back kills from the Jade Dragons, have not slowed down in this game 4. The game plan appeared to be draft-wise for the Jade Dragons to put some pressure on left, and we have seen anything but. It has been right side madness for the Jade Dragons. Maybe 2 more good team fights here for the Solar Scarabs if they go heavily enough in their favor. But there is some scaling. There is some hope for the Jade Dragons. Final K 403. Always look at this Bastet over in the solo lane. Hurrywin's got some priority items in his back pocket as well. Still a chance for the Jade Dragons.
Got to play around Hurry's ultimate. It has to get an equal value one, which is not going to be easy.
Could it be here? Final K jumps out. He is tethered in place.
Taunt.
Panda Cat is sent back into the wayside. Jump in from
boy.
SOT. Lord of the Afterlife is massive. Both of the carries alone in the backline, but neither of them die. Stewart being melted away. Panda Cat has stayed alive for so long, and that has opened the door for Final K to jump in. He'll grab the kill onto the Ola run, but Sanford Soccer alone all this time. 2 for 1 for the Scarabs.
That ultimate from Sot was huge. Got both backliners, Hurrywin and Panda Cat, just standing too close. And Final K trying to salvage some damage on the back end, but missed the root. And as a result, Scream is going to be A-OK. Bead still in this pocket at the exact same time. And the Scarabs once again outnumber the Jade Dragons in the team fight.
Gold at least somewhat even as far as that fight goes. XP about 1,000 in favor, though, of the Scarabs.
And Panda, you called it, man. He stayed alive for a long time. Just juked really, really well. Put a ton of damage back onto Stu. Dragons probably win that fight pretty easily, honestly. Now that he has it, maybe it can be a difference maker, but look at the relic graveyard for the Jade Dragons. They have 2 out of 10 available. On the right-hand side, it's not that much better, but it's 3 sets of beads.
Beads, right.
And that's really important.
Beads, very important. Solar Scarabs do not want to waste time here. Fire Giant pulled.
Panda's
45 minutes into the game. Panda Cat is not here for this fight. Hurrywin, Final K,
Gotta be a
they
hero.
are here. Fire Giant is secured by the Solar Scarabs. They make no mistake. Final K has been the one saving grace for the Jade Dragons. He will be pulled to his first death of the game. Baronic gets the shutdown in the Solar Scarabs. 5 with FG. Jade Dragons missing their solo laner.
And it feels like the Jade Dragons are just a bit punch drunk right now. I mean, over and over and over again, the Solar Scarabs are the first ones to the objective and forcing the Jade Dragons to make a call. And on the Gold Fury, it's Final K not being there. And on the other side of the map, there it's Panda Cat, not there, on the left side of the map. And these are just mental mistakes and positional mistakes that you can't afford to make at this stage.
There's maybe a momentary advantage. 4 ultimates down for the Solar Scarabs, 4 ultimates up for the Jade Dragons, but the Scarabs playing slow enough. They're not going to give the Dragons that opportunity to find the engage. We're going to knock down this tower on right, knock down this tower in mid. We'll head on over to left. open up the left side. Phoenix as well. Why roll the dice when we know we're not at our strongest point? We've got a Gold Fury to look at. The red buff is going to be up in about 2 seconds. Gold has been reached at some point in the last 4 games that we've seen.
Imagine you only watched phase 1, where the Dragons were dominating and the Scarabs were horrible. And I told you the Scarabs were on the precipice of beating them in the quarterfinals.
We have a lot of viewers today. I guarantee you that's a handful of people who are watching the Jade Dragons wondering what in the world is going on. What is this new look Solar Scarabs roster? They look so different from how they did at the beginning of the year. And what a difference a couple of phases make for this Solar Scarabs team. The Cinderella story, I'm not sure you can even call it that anymore. This Scarabs team has taken effectively everyone in the league to the brink for so long. They could not close out these sets. And they are an inch away from moving on to the SMITE World Championship semifinals. You do not want to lose Scream to start it off, but it is all a bait. Is it all a ruse? Will Scream live? Nonetheless, down he crashes outside of the base of the Jade Dragons. Panicat has lived. Final K's gotten the kill on a Scream, but Inbound jumps on a Panicat, and he'll grab that kill. The cleave damage massive on the rest of the Jade Dragons roster. The Solar Scarabs get 1. The Solar Scarabs add their 2nd. Hurryman desperately clinging to life, clinging to damage. And he will survive for a minute longer.
The only thing stopping the Solar Scarabs from eliminating the Jade Dragons right now are those 2 diamonds lit up on the left-hand side. Those ultimates have to go big.
This has got to be big, Hurryman. You need the Lightning Storm, and it is huge. Stewart uses the Aegis, but watch out. Inbound is in the backline. PBM whittled down by Stewart. Final K jumps back into the fight, but will it cost him his life? Will it cost you the quarterfinal? Not yet.
Oh my God, I can't believe that Stewart ends up living there. I think Hurry rushed the detonate in that moment because he was so scared of what Inbound was going to do, because he just watched his ADC get soloed by this Circuit. I thought that Panda was going to be fine for sure, but didn't love the Relic usage, that Aegis a little bit too early. You got to Aegis that ambush damage if you have to have any hope, or juke it at the very least, but Inbound was on point.
Away from being enhanced, what is the call by the Jade Dragons? You only lost your mid lane Phoenix in that last push. Is that enough to get you confidence in walking forward into the Fire Giant pit?
No, sir.
The answer is no. The Solar Scarabs secure the enhanced Fire Giant and are signing their name on the bottom of their ticket to the semifinals.
Unbelievable. No beads up for the Jade Dragons, and that's why they can't be there to defend the EFG. And I'm not sure those beads are going to be back up again in Season 8 here, Dave. I mean, you look at 56 seconds on Hurwin's beads in particular. That seems like an awfully long time from now.
We're not waiting that long. Right side push from the Solar Scarabs as Inbound and SOT are in the mid lane. Jade Dragons are going to have to split time between the mid lane and the right. And Inbound and Sot have thrown caution to the wind. They have jumped on the back line alone. What changes now? Why would anything change? As Inbound has eyes for Hurrywind, and Hurrywind alone, that will buy space on the right side. Phoenix absolutely melted before any sort of fighting happens. Final K, is there an opening here? Inbound says no.
And that Phoenix is already gone. I mean, in the blink of an eye, and there's waves pushing. This wave in mid is not pushed. The wave in right is not pushed. Beads are up for almost everyone in the Jade Dragons. 13 on Hurricane, so they got that going for them, and that's the end of the list of things that are going well right now for the Dragons.
According to Inbound, this Jade Dragons team, the only team with pressure going into this matchup. You would not have guessed it, by the way, that things have gone. In we go on the left side. Phoenix, the Solar Scarabs got all 3 down. The Jade Dragons will group up as 5. One last chance under their Titan.
Deep breaths now for the Solar Scarabs. They don't have to push it right now. Look at these waves coming in mid and in right. This is where you got to have Scream, that veteran leadership. Hey guys, let's wait. Let's just wait for our waves.
Season on the line for the Jade Dragons as the Solar Scarabs eyeing their fire minions, walking down the mid lane.
Whoa.
Bear Mike, in he goes. You got to fight away from your Titan. Sanctified Field is down, but Stewart, it's too much sustain. Hurrywind jumped on by SOT. Polar Bear Mike, he will be the first casualty of this fight. No, he won't. It'll be Panicat instead. Lightning Storm down. Gets nearly nothing. SOT has got the double. The clock will not strike midnight. Not yet today. The glass slipper, it fits. It's on the foot of the Solar Scarabs. They will knock out the Jade Dragons, and these Scarabs go on to semis.
Unbelievable. I don't believe it. If you would have told me in April of this year that the Solar Scarabs would eliminate the Jade Dragons round 1 of the SMITE World Championship, I would have hit you. I would have been like, what is... Cease... Talk to a professional, because you need serious help. but it's unbelievable the transformation this team has
For
made.
starters, Scarabs, they did not let Hurrywin breathe the entire time. It was always inbound chasing him down, Scream chasing him down. He just was constantly being pressured by one or more parties out of the Scarabs. I think they did a great job at essentially neutralizing the Jade Dragons' presence from that mid lane role, and it also gave a little bit more advantages, I think, towards SOT, who without a doubt just had a career-defining performance here in the quarterfinals for Worlds. I mean, he definitely deserves to walk away from this set with his head held high, because that was quite a show out of him. And I mean, he ran it down on Osiris 3 times over, but sometimes, you know, 3 is all you need. And SOT, he just looked like he was completely unstoppable, because Azer, you mentioned it, like, fine, okay, he got some kills, but as we all know in the world of SMITE, kills don't necessarily equate to everything, and I think that the team fight differences were certainly being felt between that frontline performance out of the Osiris in comparison to that of the Bastet.
You really get to see it, I think, in moments like this fight that we're actually watching from Stuart's perspective. Around that Gold Fury, I mean, a really good team fight. And despite the fact that the Dragons are able to get a little bit of damage back off, they kill off Scream, things like that, they lose the Fury, then they end up losing the fight. A lot of big controlling, like 3-man sweeps like that happen for the Scarabs in a row, and it ends up resulting in a lot of fun. 1 death for Baronic all day so far. So, of course, I think we mentioned it to him before that game, and I said, I'm sorry, we just jinxed you. It's going to happen, but even still, 1 death throughout all of that means he's got a nuts KDA here at Worlds. Just a phenomenal performance all around, Hazer. I mean, there's so much to highlight that was good from the Scarabs, and at the same time, the good news is that they played a bunch of stuff we kind of already expected from them, so even now the Titans don't have as much to pull from.
Yeah, I think difficult to look at what they did today and say, here's exactly what you changed to take them down. The Titans will obviously be going over these tapes with a fine-tooth comb, I think, all evening, trying to figure out exactly what they need to do to take down the Scarabs. But they look like they have a lot more in the locker than I think even at the playoffs that we just saw they had.
And I'm excited to see this. I mean, again, the Scarabs, the Titans got here a while ago, so we haven't seen them play on this patch, but they were looking almost perfect when they did.
For sure, and not only that, but I think that the Tartarus Titans, also a team that I think is really great at adapting the longer that a set goes. So these best of 5s, while we've seen a few adjustments here from the Solar Scarabs, again, they didn't really have to change up the game plan all that heavily. It was largely just Scream and SOT getting to pretty much dictate the entire pacing of the map after game 1. And, well, I think that one key takeaway, though, for sure, is the fact that I think Stuart really stepped it up. I know that he definitely had, you know, that all that presence coming out of his solo and his jungler, but you could kind of see some of the shakiness in game 1 there with the Freya, and then all of a sudden you remember it's like, hey, I'm in the Pro League for a reason. I can definitely still compete with these guys, and I think it was cool to see him essentially kind of develop into a little bit of a more confident player throughout the set.
We got to see that, and ideally, we'll get to see more of that this weekend as they take on the Titans tomorrow. But up next, the second set of the day is going to be the Bolts and the Leviathans. Now, Hazer, this has been a very, let's say tumultuous, that feels like a good word for it, matchup over the last couple of years. In that, for the most part, the Bolts have almost always won this and hardly ever lost a game until more recently where the Leviathans have started to step up.
Yeah, regular season, Leviathans seem to have an okay time against this Bolts core, but last year even the Renegades took down Sanguine, as they were known back then, 3-0, and the Bolts definitely just seem to have the upper hand in this matchup a little bit. I don't know if it's a mental thing, I don't know if it's a playstyle thing, but the Leviathans, they need to sort it out.